All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Friday. It is the final day of June. It's 2023, at least last I checked, and I'm not Brian Wilson. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm here till 7 o'clock in Brian Wilson's stead, and I'm proud to be here. I wore a shirt similar to one that Wilson would wear in his honor. Brian is off today. Thank you to Cameron Smith for filling in for me. When I fill in for Brian, invariably someone has to fill in for me, and that was Cameron Smith today, and he did a great job breaking down some of the Supreme Court decisions coming down this week. The conservative court, we're seeing the after effects of a Trump-appointed conservative court. We're going to talk all about that throughout the course of the afternoon. Take your telephone calls on it. Our usual guest on these Fridays during my show is Jay St. Clair. Jay is not only a good friend, he's not only Tennessee born and bred, graduated from the University of Tennessee, went on to Yale, and he always tells me to repeat myself when I say that, and then I scream it. Went on to Yale, because that's our joke. He'll be here at about 3:15 to break down some of these court cases and also to break down a case that's not getting as much attention because of the SCOTUS cases, and that is the fact that a judge in good standing with the state of Tennessee decided to rule temporarily against HB 1, which would prevent underage transgender, what many refer to as mutilation surgeries, but transgender, quote-unquote, reassignment surgeries. We'll talk to Jay at 3:15 this afternoon. As I speak, I'm attempting to get on Talk TV. So if you are waiting to see my incredible camp shirt, which is what this is not a Hawaiian shirt. These are referred to as camp shirts. Hawaiian shirts have flowers on them. This has spurs and skulls and cowboys and the like. If you're waiting to see that, fear ye not. I have just reset my Zoom password, and I am endeavoring to do technologically challenging things while still talking on the radio. You're invited to come out and see us. Maybe get the – I don't know when it happened. I don't begrudge it. I'm not hating on it. I don't necessarily know when the holiday – okay, my password reset link expired. Okay, well, very good. Well, I'm going to get out of there, and I'm going to come back. I don't know what I don't know when exactly July 4th, the day, became July 4th, the week. I think it was a two-stage transition because they're talking about today is the busiest flying day of the year, or at least since the pandemic occurred. Now, normally I think it's the day before Thanksgiving or maybe it's the day before Christmas Eve. Those are the busy ones. But they, the powers that be, they, them, them that know everything, they're telling us that today is going to be the busiest day nationwide for flights. And I passed by the airport coming out of Mount Juliet toward Bold Patriot Brewing today, and I can tell you there's a lot of people sitting in line on the interstate waiting just to get to the golf ramp so they can get to the airport, so they can get to their flight, and hopefully they've given themselves enough time. And if you've got a flight this evening, might want to add a little extra time. I know it sucks sitting at the airport. I get it. But, once you get in there, you find you a nice bar or other watering hole, and you can make the time go by a little bit quicker in that fashion. But today is the busiest travel day because next week seemingly everyone's off. Well, I'm off for most of the week. I'm here Monday. I think Brian's off. I think Mandis is working his normal time from 5 until 9 on Nashville's Morning News. And I believe Pamela Furr is in for Brian Wilson, and who knows who's in for Pamela Furr, and who knows who's in for Matt Murphy for the latter portion of the week. One way or the other, it was a two-stage process, right? When I was a kid, and I love to date myself in this way because I'm getting old, but when I was a kid, you had it was July 4th all the kids were already out of school, so it was, no skin off our nose one way or the other. But your parents got July 4th off, and if July 4th occurred on a Wednesday, if you were the child of rich folks, this is the way I looked at it, then you could have your parents got extra days off. But my grandpa worked the day before and the day after, you know what I'm saying? Then if it happened on a Tuesday, your employer would give you that Monday off, or if it happened on a Thursday, your employer would go ahead and give you a Friday off. And that's like we just assume that we take the entire week off. Well, we're not taking the show off. We've got a lot to get to. We'll have some fun a little bit later on. I want to talk to you about some of the more popular tourist destinations in the state of Tennessee where many people will be going over the course of the next week. We'll talk a little NASCAR. I've got an addendum to add to our conversation about the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Our effort, at least my effort, and the effort of many others to salvage and save one of the most recognizable and longest-standing institutions in the city and in the state. There are entities that want to destroy it, and we're doing our dead level best to save it. We'll talk with you about that coming up a little bit later on as well. Chris Webber's back in the studio, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. The Curb is here on site, devouring some of those delicious Cheez-Its, and they got a back kick, though. You got to watch them. They got a little backbite. My wife loves to make what she calls firecracker Cheez-Its. Rebecca, you should come get some of these. If you like spicy things, Rebecca is going to keel over and faint. Rebecca stopped by. We're at Bowl Patriot, I mentioned. So Rebecca comes, and it's like I have leprosy. She doesn't want to get that close to me, and she's kind of afraid of me. And I came around the table, and we met, and she's a loyal Super Talk listener, and that's awesome. Is that your significant other over there? Is that your beau? Brent? Did I say that? B-R-E-N-T? Brent and Rebecca are already here. They were kind enough to offer us a beverage, and I listened as Kirby was wise enough to say, no, I'm driving the company vehicle, have to decline, but thank you very much. I'm kind of on the weight loss train right now, Rebecca. Otherwise, I would have taken you up on it. I mean, radio show be damned. But Rebecca's here. She's going to try some firecracker Cheez-Its. You can, too, if you swing on out and join us at Bowl Patriot. But Chris Webber is back in the house. He's got to do the yeoman's work, right? He's got to do the hard job. Would you, Mr. Webber, I hate to produce on air, resend me that Zoom link because I've now reestablished my connection with Zoom, but now Zoom is mad at everybody. Mad at you, mad at me. Zoom thinks that we're some sort of scammers attempting to take advantage. So just resend it to me. We'll try to get super. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We'll try to get Super Talk TV up and running. I am proud to note that I did find a power cord, so we don't have that to worry about over the course of the next few hours. There's a tremendous amount to discuss. As you might expect, we're going to spend some time. Cameron, as he was filling in for me, called it. I think he called it his Supreme Court Super Show. Well, if his was a Supreme Court Super Show, I will refer to what we will do as Supreme Court Super Show Part 2 in 3D, because I'm here in 3D, so you don't have to watch me on a television screen. You can come watch me in person. That's what makes it 3D. It will be a super show in as much as there are a lot of decisions that are coming down. Look, the courts are what they are, and one of the reasons that I believe the left is reacting the way that they are to some of these court decisions, there's a couple of things to note. One, the political left, say what you will, and some of you in the audience might consider yourself moderate or left of center, but know this, the most dramatic among you do not know how to lose. You never have known how to lose. And so when you find yourself with a losing hand, the political left doesn't know really what to do with that except to declare that democracy's over. When Donald Trump won, democracy was over. When, despite their best efforts, Brett Kavanaugh was appointed to the United States, oh, democracy's over. Every time something wrong happens in the minds or eyes of the left, they declare that democracy is dead. Well, democracy's not dead. Big D democracy. I'm talking about, I understand that we're a representative republic. I don't want to get into that debate again. But democracy's not over. It wasn't over when Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided and was on the books as the law of the land, despite no law ever being passed. Roe v. Wade was sitting there for 50 years, and conservatives for 50 years thought it was wrongly decided. But did they declare that democracy was over? Of course not. You fight for candidates that you believe in. You fight to elect presidents that you believe in, that will appoint judges that you believe in. That's how you repair an activist judicial branch. But that gets me to point two. So, one, the left doesn't know how to lose. Point number two, the political left has been fighting for well over a half a century to pack the court with activist judges. And there are still plenty of activist judges. What is an activist judge? An activist judge acts exterior to the laws passed and exterior to the Constitution, which is overriding their jurisdiction, whether it's a state judge or a federal judge, and creates law independent of the elected legislature. And that's what many federal judges have been doing for a long time, and it is what the expectation is of the United States Supreme Court, that they will act in the best interest of the individual parties concerned, particularly if they're a minority status, regardless of what the law says, regardless of what the process. A perfect example for this activist judge concept would be student loan forgiveness. Most everyone in America studying these types of things recognizes that Joe Biden does not have the unilateral authority to hang on the back of the taxpayers billions and billions of dollars in debt incurred by individuals going to college. That's up to if the Congress of the United States wants to pass that tax abatement, all well and good, because the Constitution gives them that authority. It does not give the authority to the president. So the Supreme Court's ruling in no way reflects their opinion about whether this should happen or not. They're merely making a statement about how it has to happen per the Constitution of the United States. And everyone knows it. Yet the political left, they've got their panties in a wad about all of it because they didn't get their way. And they don't get to go back to their home districts and declare victory. Now, they'll go back to their home districts and they'll champion this as a part of their political campaigns. You elect us and we'll get this done and we'll get that forgiveness happen. But we'll delve a little further into that. It's just a good example of how the political left has attempted to pack a court with activist judges that they would expect that a court in good standing in their minds would have gone ahead and given Joe Biden that level of authority. Can you imagine giving Joe Biden unilateral authority to spend the taxpayer dollars without having to go to Congress and ask? Any president for that. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, the president simply doesn't have that ability. House of Representatives holds the purse strings. So, all right, I've gone off on a tangent. What I want to do is bring Jay St. Clair in. We're going to do that in just a moment, and we'll get his analysis on not just the loan forgiveness case, the transgender case here in the state of Tennessee. There's a couple of religious liberties cases that were ruled upon, and then obviously the affirmative action case as well. It's all upcoming on The Drive. No Brian Wilson today. Matt Murphy at Bold Patriot Brewing. Come out and see us on this Friday. We'll be back in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The 12-year-old girl who accidentally shot herself this week in Nashville has now died, according to reports from News 2. Another crime story here in Tennessee, and we take a look at the Supreme Court rulings today. That and more 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, that's sad news on this unofficial Friday beginning of what has become the Independence Day week celebration in the United States of America. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and for Brian Wilson at Bold Patriot Brewing. Come on out and make that unofficial start official with us. Heck, you never know. I might buy you a beer. I might not, but I might buy you a beer. But I will give you Cheez-Its as long as they last. Brennan just, are you trying those? Pretty good. They got a back heat. Be careful. Careful over there. Well, heck, you know what? We might get Donald Trump liquored up enough to come over here for a minute a little bit later on in the show. You never know. He is, my understanding, in the house today. So right now I know who is in the house, and that is our man with all of the legal analysis that is fit for radio. He is the one and only Jay St. Clair. Here we go. It's not morning, but it is Friday. Anytime you hear the voice of Jay St. Clair, he is my legal expert, my legal analyst, Tennessee born and bred, now resides in lovely Birmingham, Alabama. He is Jay St. Clair, and he's joining us on the drive. Hey, Jay, how's it going?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be that dog of yours, Mrs. Beasley.
Boy, she's got it good. She'll cover your breathing holes, Jay, like a cat. She gets mad. She tries to smother you in the bed and then gets mad at you. But anyway, well, I feel the same about Olivia. Olivia's got it good, buddy. You're Secretary of Homeland Security. That's right, isn't it?
Right. No, it is. It's funny. She was sitting in my truck at the grocery store the other day. And a friend of mine pulled up parked beside her. She had her little daughter with her. And daughter said, well, he's left the windows open in there. And she said, don't worry. Nobody's going to mess with that dog.
That's the truth. For those who don't know, Olivia is Jay's beautiful Secretary of Homeland Security, we call her. She is his German Shepherd, and squirrels, possums, and other vermin know to avoid your yard.
We'll have to tell the Lazarus story sometime.
One of these days, when we don't have so much to cover in so little time, as someone, I mean, maybe I'm assuming too much. But I know how much you enjoy the law. I know how much you enjoy talking about it and breaking down the nuance of it. Right. It's one of the reasons that you're one of my best friends, because your mind just spins, just turns, as one of our good friends used to say, like a washing machine. So I have to believe that this week is kind of like Christmas for Jay to walk through some of these cases.
Well, that's right, particularly because a few of them are right in my wheelhouse. That touch result exactly on what I do for a living. So, now it's been fun, although I got to say this. The way the Supreme Court operates, it's odd, man. They take very few cases, take forever to decide, and they write these long opinions. The thing I most dislike is now, when they circulate the opinion and they got winners and losers, well, the losers, the justices in the minority, write their, minority opinion. Well, then the winners go criticize it. Right there in the opinion. I mean, it's like a bunch of eighth graders.
Yeah, and that happened between Sotomayor and Gorsuch, I think. Yeah. So explain to us, this is really, I might keep you for extra time, I can already tell, but explain to us how that works, because they vote and then walk through how that happens, like how they get to a vote and then how they decide who writes it and then how the dissent goes. How does all that work?
Yeah, this is what I believe. I know how it works for the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals because I clerked on that court. And but this is what I think happens. They have an oral argument, Matt, and then they go back and meet right then. It may not be right then. It may be within a week. But at the Sixth Circuit, they met right then. Mm-hmm. And my judge would come back in the chambers, and he would tell us right then how they decided the 5 votes for that day, 5 cases for that day. But they hear the case, they make a decision, they say what the head count is, and then whoever is in the most senior justice in the majority of the people voting decides who gets to write the opinion.
Okay.
And then the senior attorney, lawyer who's not in the majority, decides, well, no, actually, I guess at that point, anybody can write a dissenting opinion if they want to. Yeah,
And
so
and a judge can also decide they're not, if they're in the majority, like I believe Clarence Thomas did with the affirmative action case, they can also decide to write a separate but concurring opinion.
That's right, a concurring opinion. That's exactly right. So one justice gets assigned to write the opinion for the court. That's what they call it, the opinion for the court. It's the majority opinion. And then after that, anybody else can write anything they want. And, you go back and read cases from 30, 40 years ago, man, they were 10 pages long. Mm-hmm. Well, now they can't say their name in 10 pages.
It is odd, and you pointed out, and I didn't think about it this way, but so, and I you'll know, I can't remember which case it was, but Gorsuch was writing the majority opinion, and I think it was Gorsuch.
That was in too.
And
they what?
But so they pass around the majority opinion, and the dissenting opinion gets passed around before it gets revealed, and now they've taken to, I guess, after they read the dissent, they add on a little bit more or a lot more to the case.
They address it. I mean, it's kind of like you just won the national championship, and then you go over to the other side of the stadium and say, nanny, nanny, boo-boo. What is it that those classes people over in Tuscaloosa, they play they win a game and we just beat the blank out of you. Well,
yes, that's not classic. It's just not classic. So you're saying that the dissenting judges in modern America on the United States Supreme Court are like Bama fans.
Well, it's the majority the ones that do it.
Oh, I guess that's true. I guess it would be the majority in this case.
No, they just won, and then they go over in front of the dissenting judges and sing, what is it? Yammer jammer, yellow hammer, something, something, something. We just beat the blanket. Well, my word, act like you've been there before.
Well, is it because, and I don't know if this is becoming a pattern. I guess maybe we'll need to see a few more sessions before we could call it that, or maybe you've already recognized it as a pattern. But I thought it interesting. I didn't think of it as odd, but I guess you could look at it that way too, that Gorsuch would go so far as to directly address the dissent. But is it possible it's because the dissent is making false claims about the case that was before the court?
No, it's not false claims, man. I mean, they just have a difference of opinion. It's not new. It's been happening for years, but it's getting worse. And the fundamental problem is they don't have enough to do. If they do their jobs and take more cases and decide cases, they wouldn't have time to be eighth graders with each other and sing, well, I can't even know the song,
Yammer, jammer, yellow hammer, give 'em hell, Alabama, we just beat the hell out of you. I think that's right. I think it's about right. I heard it one time as a Georgia fan. You heard it a lot of times. I'll get into it. So 32 after, I've got to get over here to Mac Morey, but Jay St. Clair is going to be with us. We're going to dissect a few of these cases in detail. It's going to be fascinating. I'm excited about it. Hope you are. Let's go to news right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
3:33, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Getting closer and closer to that 100-degree mark. Right now, 98, and that excessive heat warning in effect until 8 p.m. tonight. So stay shaded and hydrated. Traffic and weather coming up in about 5 minutes. Some breaking news on an accidental shooting here in Tennessee. The 12-year-old girl who accidentally shot herself at a Nashville apartment has now been reported as dead, according to News 2. The girl was holding a 9mm handgun when a single shot was fired. 5 juveniles in total were inside of that apartment when it happened, and that gun belonged to a 15-year-old boy who is now facing charges. Crime in Tennessee. News 2 says that a man was shot and hit with a gun this morning south of downtown. Police say the victim was beat up and shot by a group of people, and that victim is now at Vanderbilt Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries. Going over to the nation's capital, the U.S. Supreme Court decided today the Biden administration cannot forgive student debt for millions of Americans. Aaron Katersky.
The U.S. Supreme Court, in a 6-3 opinion written by Chief Justice Roberts, decided the Secretary of Education had no authority to forgive $430 billion worth of student loan debt. The opinion sides with 6 Republican-led states that argued only Congress, not the Biden administration, could cancel that much debt. It is a victory for taxpayers worried about the cost, but it means 43 million Americans will need to start making payments that had been on hold. In dissent, Justice Kagan said Congress gave the administration authority and accused the majority of overreaching into the nation's affairs.
Canadian wildfires. The CDC now lending advice to those downwind of the continuing flames. Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
Hospitals reporting a jump in smoke-related head, eye, and chest aches from wildfire smoke pouring into the Midwest and northeastern U.S. CDC urging health professionals to watch out for other signs, including eye, lung, and heart issues. The health agency urging at-risk Americans to either wear an N95 mask outdoors or go inside to a well-air-conditioned and filtered house until those Canadian wildfire winds change again.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
We've been talking about it for a month now, but now the time has come, and you've got just a few hours left for sales tax-free safes in the state of Tennessee. Sadly, the Safe House has to say that they've got to pay the man, and the man wants his taxes after this month is done. So Mark at the Safe House encourages you to get over to the Safe House as quickly as possible. Call the Safe House, and let's begin the process of getting you a new gun safe. And the possibility exists that you could still save hundreds of dollars not having to pay those sales taxes. Now, you're still getting an incredible deal at the Safe House. They still have these incredible Browning rebates going on that Mark says, despite doing it 30 years, he's not seen rebates like this since he's been in business at the Safe House. So go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com. You can find all of the numbers and everything you need to know right there. They have more selection of safes than any place on the planet. And I'm not kidding. Nashville Safe House right here on 4th Avenue South. They have more safes in stock than any other safe store on the planet and the best Browning dealer on earth. So go and see him. Try to take advantage of those sales tax-free safes right now, because come July, that deal is over. 4th Avenue South, or go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com. Once again, NashvilleSafeHouse.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There's so many different reasons why I enjoy having Jay St. Clair on the show. One, his legal acumen. Two, his friendship. Maybe I have those reversed. Let's go it again. One, the friendship. Two, the legal acumen. Three, having him on today reminded me that I had forgotten to do my Wordle for today. Jay, I just completed my Wordle and sent it to you, buddy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, four. It was a 4, though. It's
Yeah.
Word trap. So, Jay, the case that you were discussing, and let's dive into this one because there's 2 cases involving religious liberty. And the one that you were talking about that had this back and forth, and I'm going to read the back and forth because it's very interesting, and I never thought about it the way that you have. 303 Creative LLC versus Alinus,
Right.
in which this graphic designer wanted to expand into wedding websites, and she sought a ruling that Colorado would not enforce an anti-discrimination law against her. And in the decision, Justice Gorsuch wrote for the majority. The dissenting opinion was written by Justice Sotomayor. And what Gorsuch wrote, and you're right, this is probably a little unnecessary. You already won the case. But
Right.
it is difficult to read the dissent and conclude we're looking at the same case. Much of it focuses on the evolution of public accommodation laws and the strides gay Americans have made toward securing equal justice. And no doubt there's much to applaud here, but none of this answers the question we face today. Can a state force someone who provides her own expressive services to abandon her conscience and speak its preferred message instead? And that's kind of, that's a little bit of nose rubbing, in your opinion?
Yeah, jammer, yellow hammer. No, do that. You won.
What do you think about? I mean, this is very similar to the cake baker, was it not?
Yeah, here's what these cases turn up, man. And it's really interesting. It obviously involves religious activity or principles or beliefs, but they decide these cases on free speech, man. And it's just interesting how they do that. And so what turned the outcome of this case is the specific services she was going to provide, basically designing websites for her customers, including the content, not just the shell. She doesn't just make the shell. She actually tells a story. Almost like writing a novel. She writes a little short story about the couple that's getting married. And so it's her content, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And everybody in just looking at the case said, okay, that is speech under the First Amendment. So that's the key fact there. We can talk about what is baking a cake speech. Well, what she was doing was speech. Mm-hmm. And once you cross that bridge, from there, it's pretty easy, really, man. The government cannot make people say things that they don't want to say. Mm-hmm. That's well established in the law. I mean, it would be, well, I think we use this example in a lot of times, but when I was watching Tennessee football, I was at your house watching Tennessee Georgia game before Georgia got great and everything. and you said to me, Jay, you're welcome to come over, have all the time you want. But if the first time I hear good old
Ooh. Get out, St. Clair.
Right, and so that's and then does the First Amendment? Well, it's my First Amendment rights. Well, you're not the government. Mm-hmm. Well, it would be like this. The reverse of that is, well, you're welcome to come over to my house and watch the Tennessee Georgia game, man. But every 5 minutes, you must stand up and sing Rocky Top. Mm-hmm. And you say, no, right. I'm not going to do that. You can't make me say something I don't believe in. Well, I'm not the government, so actually I could. But the government can't do that. And so that's what this case was about. It's just because it was speech.
Right, and it goes beyond, and I think some language in the dissent, indicated that, you're making different rules for this group or that group or a protected class of people. And my thought on that, Jay, and tell me if I'm thinking correctly, is, well, this person's not making widgets and saying, I'm going to sell my widgets, and I'm going to sell my widgets to everybody but gay people.
Yep.
That's not what she's doing.
You said that exactly right. You said that exactly right, man. You're a good lawyer.
Well, no, I just hung around one for a while.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. So then the question, the cake baker thing. So is a cake a widget, or is it a short story? You know, see, that's where
that's true. And that's cool. So the cake issue was probably. I mean, I think they decided it pretty narrowly, if I remember correctly. But that's probably a trickier thing, don't you think?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, because there, what the cake baker says is, well, I'm speaking in a way because it's my artistic expression. Yeah, but I mean, that's just with icing. So that's a little bit different. But that's why somebody can't say, well, it's against my religion to serve Muslims. I just don't believe in the Muslim religion and whatnot. Well, no, that didn't work that way. Because then your First Amendment speech rights aren't implicated in any way. And so that's what makes this case different. It's unusual facts. Frankly, I think it's a pretty limited holding, man.
Well,
and a lot of the Supreme Court decisions are.
Right. And we discussed this. I remember discussing this during the cake baker decision, that, there's a very narrow lane of these types of businesses anyway.
Right.
And we're just kind of working out some of the kinks on these narrow paths, because you're talking about a public business that's open for everyone, but because these particular businesses deal with individual artistic expression or speech, there's just not a lot of businesses like that. And I've made the point, and tell me if this factors at all in, Jay, that, there was a time when a complainant could demonstrate real harm, right? This photographer refused to take my picture, my husband and I's picture, and no other photographers out there to take our picture.
Yeah, no,
and now, right, because now there's really no harm to the couple that meets that religious person, because they can go on down the street.
No, that's exactly right. And as we've been saying for years before they changed the law about homosexuals, whether the civil rights laws apply to them, I've never saying I've been alive 65 years, man. Guess how many times I've seen the sign up in a restaurant, homosexuals not allowed.
They don't happen. I've never seen it.
Never.
Maybe
Never.
at some point before we were alive, but
yeah.
And you made the point, and you're right. And I forget what year, you might know what year it was determined that sex would more broadly apply to one's sexual preference. But before that, it would have been legal, right?
Law. No. That was not the federal law. Some states had passed it, but not all, including Tennessee.
Right.
So, it was permissible to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. But they changed that. Actually, Gorsuch wrote that opinion, just interpreting the language of federal law.
What about the other case? And we made mention of this, and I'm wondering if this surprised you that it was unanimous, involving the United States postal worker and his right to take the Sabbath off.
No, it didn't surprise me. That's a real technical, narrow little opinion again, man. This has to do with religious accommodation in the workplace. And what that most of the two main times that comes up, man, is on scheduling, when people don't want to work on the Sabbath, and then also maybe religious attire or garb. That's about the only times that come up. And so the case was really a very narrow technical issue of how much harm does a company have to prove that the accommodation would cause it before it doesn't have to do it. Right, and here the guy didn't want to work Sunday. He was a mail carrier, never had to work Sunday, and then he contracted with Amazon. I love getting Amazon packages on Sunday, right? So this guy on Sunday,
especially from the post office, especially when the U.S. Postal Service brings.
The post office guy pulls up on a Sunday and leaves an Amazon package. And so suddenly this guy had to start working on Sundays. He said he didn't want to do it, and he actually ended up quitting and sued him. And it's just this real technical little thing, man, about it is just a slight de facto and just a slight little injury enough. I'm not thinking of the Latin phrase that I'm really looking for right
De
now. But
minimis. Is that
de minimis, thank you. Yeah. Is a de minimis injury enough, or does it have to be more? Well, of course it has to be more. And that was just a loose phrase from an old Supreme Court opinion. So no, it did surprise me the court was unanimous in that. But I'll say this about the religious accommodation cases. Those are interesting because it cuts. The conservatives tend to be more willing to accommodate religion. Maybe they're not across the board, but I'd say generally that's true. Not so much for liberals. But here, they all got lined up together. I mean, because here's another place where it pops up, man. Muslims, devout practicing Muslims, they're actually required to pray several times every day.
right?
So devout practicing Muslims ask for multiple breaks during the course of a workday to pray. And then, does that hurt the company? Well, it's a disruption, right? And if you got a production line, well, it would have been a year ago, it would have been a major hardship on Bud Light to pull people off the production line so that they could go pray. But suddenly, man, they find that they can run that line with a lot fewer people.
Yeah, 30% will change the production of a business. Jay, I've got a break. Can you stick around for a little while longer?
Listen, I'm yours for. I'll stay here.
I want to jump through the top of the hour. We've got news coming up at the top of the hour, but I want to talk to you about the affirmative action case, which is kind of feels like the biggie. But we'll talk with Jay St. Clair about that. And if you're scoring at home, Chris Webber, we'll have to push down the line our guest in the 4 o'clock hour just a little bit, but I'll talk to you about that offline. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, The Drive. We're live at Bold Patriot Brewing. Come on out and see us. Get yourself a beverage or 2 or 3 or however many if you're not driving. It's up to you. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's 4:02. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 98 degrees. And folks, the heat is not going anywhere this holiday weekend, so make sure stay cool, stay safe. All of Middle Tennessee in an excessive heat warning until 8 p.m. tonight. Complete weather and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Michelle Franzen lets us know the two Supreme Court rulings that came down today.
A defiant President Biden criticizing the Supreme Court's ruling striking down the student debt forgiveness program. Justices ruling that the Biden administration overstepped its authority, moving without Congress to waive or reduce $400 billion in debt. The president says he thinks the court misinterpreted the Constitution and says Republicans, too.
But today's decision has closed one path. Now we're going to pursue another. I'm never going to stop fighting for you. We'll use every tool at our disposal to get you the student debt relief you need and reach your dreams.
The president says his administration is moving in a different direction and will create a temporary year-long on-ramp repayment program for those struggling to pay their debt and interest. Federal student loans were paused during COVID beginning in the Trump administration and are now due to resume in October. In a separate decision on a free speech case, the Supreme Court ruled businesses can refuse services to some customers. That case involved a Christian website designer who did not want to create marriage websites for same-sex couples.
A child dead in Tennessee. The 12-year-old girl who accidentally shot herself yesterday morning has now been pronounced dead. It happened at a Nashville apartment. 5 juveniles were inside at the time of the shooting. The 9mm gun used belonged to a 15-year-old boy who's now facing charges. And in Indiana, a near-total abortion ban is still in place as that state Supreme Court upheld the law today. Here's Andy Field with the latest.
Indiana is one of at least 15 states that have stopped nearly all abortions due to restrictive laws passed or put back in place after the Supreme Court overturned the national right to choose. Indiana's Supreme Court left the state abortion ban in place and returned the case to a county judge for further action, which could open another smaller challenge to the ban. There are now multiple court cases across the country fighting the new tougher abortion restrictions.
And a ruling here today in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a 3-judge panel has temporarily blocked Governor Lee's Teacher Paycheck Protection Act. That bill that was passed in May was set to take effect tomorrow. It's supposed to raise the minimum salary for teachers to $50,000, and it prohibits deductions for union dues for teachers. The Tennessee Education Association called the bill unconstitutional and a, quote, cynical attack. A hearing is now set for July 13th to discuss the temporary restraining order. And the holiday rush, if you notice, the workplace looked a bit empty today. That's because it's expected to be the busiest travel day in years as Americans head out for the long 4th of July weekend. Alex Stone says when you drive, it'll impact how much traffic you're stuck in.
43 million Americans will be driving to a getaway this weekend, according to AAA, and that means traffic. The experts who study traffic patterns say your best bet to avoid traffic today will be leaving after 6 tonight or getting on the road tomorrow before noon. And already, for example, in the Southwest, people who drive between Las Vegas and L.A. have been told that 4-hour drive will be 6 hours or more on the 5th of July as everybody heads out of Las Vegas and back to L.A.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is indeed The Drive, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's my episode 370 with all of you, and I'm pleased to be here. My name is not Brian Wilson. I am Matt Murphy in for the vacationing Brian Wilson. Brian off to New Mexico. I think he's told the audience that. I believe I can say that. I love that part of the world. Man, it's gorgeous. And so we wish him safe travels. If you happen to be traveling, we wish you safe travels wherever you might be going. You know, Jay Harper had some traffic reporting in there, and I looked at the map, and I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have looked. The map looks gross. It looks awful. It looks, there's a lot of red and deep red and black and just over there and over yonder. And whichever way you're going, wherever you're going, you're screwed. Okay, wherever you happen to be going, for the right now, you're toast. So you may. Now, I'm not telling you to drive after you do this, but you may as well come by Bold Patriot Brewing Company and sit with us. And, Brenda's over there. She's got a water. Some have some sort of brown water involved. I mean, I guess I'm looking at a guy with a slew of it. And, I guarantee if somebody comes in before you finish that, sir, I'm going to make you give them one. Is that okay? You good with that? Okay. So he's got a flight. They call that a flight. And it looks delicious. And I'll be having one as soon as 7 o'clock rolls around. So it is The Drive with no Brian Wilson, Matt in for Brian. We also have Jay St. Clair, who's been gracious enough to stick with us through the news break there, alerting you to some of those traffic issues, to dissect and to break down some of the Supreme Court decisions this week as the court goes into summer recess. Now, coming up at 4:35, I have a veterinarian for a very good purpose. Because the 4th of July brings what? Fireworks. I hate the fireworks on the 4th of July. I'm talking about local fireworks on the 4th of July because I love my dogs, and my dogs hate fireworks. So we're going to talk to a vet about what you can do to try to minimize the impact. If you have four-leggers and they hate fireworks, how to minimize that impact. And somewhere between Jay and our vet, Brenda Willis is in the house, and I'm going to make her come up here and talk to me on the radio about blood assurance and what we can do to give during the summertime season. So it's a packed show through 7 o'clock. You don't want to miss a moment of it. So, Jay, this leads us back to the U.S. Supreme Court, and without, we've not talked about your thoughts on any of these decisions. I'm curious your thought about the affirmative action decision. Seemed to be the biggest of the slew of notable cases, at least if you believe some in the mainstream media.
Yeah, intentional race discrimination in admissions to colleges, Matt, has really been an outlier in the law. I mean, the colleges, not all of them, and frankly, it's more of the so-called elite schools, very intentionally openly base their admission decisions on race. And honestly, it's about the only place in the law where I can think of that's permitted. Well, a couple other minor things. If you got a role for a black actor, it's okay to only hire blacks. But that's about it. And so it's been an outlier for a long time. The law has really struggled with it for a long time. Used to the justification for affirmative action was, well, there was historical discrimination, so therefore we have to discriminate now to make up for the historical discrimination. Okay. Well, two wrongs seldom make a right.
Well, and I don't know about you, Jay, and I know you look at this, from largely a legal lens, and you also temper our expectations, and I appreciate this so much, and you've been doing it, for me at least, for years, where if you think some of these cases are going to have these broad implications, well, you're sort of mistaken. I mean, rarely do they have these broad, but in this, I can get it. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but I can understand that we recognized that there were racially discriminatory practices as a part of regular life at points in America's history. And how do you try to get a balance and an equality as quickly as possible? Well, I can understand why affirmative action would be an answer to that. But I don't know who said it. I don't remember who said it. It may have been Clarence Thomas, honestly, back in the day, before he he was able to write a concurring opinion on it. But, the only way you stop racial discrimination is to stop
racial discrimination.
Right. And so at some point this day had to come, and it's a fascinating look into 2023 that instead of celebrating that we've gotten to a point where we can choose to not focus on the race of a person.
That we have realized Dr. King's dream.
Or at least
we're judge people by the content of their character,
That's
not
right.
the color of their skin.
And some people are angry about that for some reason or another. And I appreciated, and I'm curious what you think about it. I appreciated Judge Roberts' position that, look, this doesn't mean that you can't include your race and how that affected your life in terms of your admission process, whether it's an essay or in telling your individual life story. Of course you can.
Right.
I think their point is that this cannot be a decider,
Right.
one person versus
race. It can't be about race.
Right.
It has to be, I'm a fighter. Well, I mean, mine were Clarence Thompson's story. So a guy's applying for college. I grew up dirt poor as the child of sharecroppers. I worked 12 hours a day since I was 10 years old. I put myself through college on my own, working 3 jobs. I have applied for and received 3 patents. I think that I have demonstrated the kind of work ethic that you want in your students. Okay, you're admitted to the Yale Law School, the best law school in the country. I never told you my race.
Right.
But I told you about the adversity I faced. That's absolutely legal. So, I get it. It's an emotional issue. But I'm not surprised. It will not have a big ripple effect in the pond, man, particularly for employment. A lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. It's already saying, oh, well, there's going to be a huge change for employment. No, it's not. The way they were practicing affirmative action in colleges is totally different from what is called affirmative action in employment. Totally different. I mean, in the colleges, they were expressly considering race.
Right. They were looking. Would you go so far as to? Is it correct to say that they were looking for quotas?
Bonnke did away with that, and so they got smart, and they don't ever put that in writing. But they are clearly, you got 2 candidates equally qualified. One of them is black, one of them is white. Well, we're going to pick the black guy because he's black, and they put that in the file. That's why we picked him. Well, that doesn't. If you do that as an employer, you're guilty. I mean, you lose that case every time. So no, it's not going to. I dare say that it does not ripple out into anything other than higher education, because higher education has had this special treatment on this thing, and part of the reason, this idea we got to discriminate to make up for past discrimination, they quit making that argument, man. That's not the argument anymore, because that generation's gone, right? There's the most of the people who dealt with, de jure legal segregation, they've moved on. Mm-hmm. Their justification, this is where they got the kind of little special treatment in the law, is they said, well, you know what, in the higher education world, we think diversity has its own educational value. We think the people have a better learning experience if there is a diverse student body. I used to say for years, so with a little truth to it, I'm actually the beneficiary of redneck affirmative action. You probably hadn't heard of that, man, but I went to the Yale Law School.
What law school was that again?
Yale.
What law school was that again?
That will always be funny.
I got a room full of people. You and I are the only ones that are laughing, but that's okay. That's okay. It's our joke.
But here's what I'm getting at, Matt. This is in the early 80s. They were very proud back then of geographic diversity. They would publish the statistics every year of how many states they were drawing from to have students. And we had 170 students in my law school class, man. Your law school is small. And there were like 38 states. Well, two of the states they listed were Tennessee and Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was born in Tennessee, so I was the Tennessee guy. I was the only guy I know that was born in Tennessee in my law school class. But they also listed Alabama. Well, at the time, I was living in Alabama.
Oh,
So,
they
see,
listed you twice.
Yeah. No, they double dipped me. I was like a handicapped agent. I checked two boxes.
I bet people knocked on your door at your dorm room just to get you to talk.
Oh, I got a lot of free beers.
Hey, listen to this. Listen to this
go
fellow
to
talk.
toes. I want to hear you talk.
And I imagine,
And hey, listen, guys, he's smart too. No, really, he's smart.
He wears shoes and talks in complete sentences and everything. Actually, I did. I met a guy from Southern California. We got to be real good buddies. He'd come by my dorm room. I was living in the dorm first year, and I introduced him to the Charlie Daniels Band. And we'd sit in there and listen to CDB records. And when Charlie passed, he sent me a note and said, "Jay, I thought about you today."
Oh, that's pretty cool. And now I live in Mount Juliet, hometown of Charlie Daniels, which is kind of cool.
That. I love
Well,
it.
Jay, I appreciate I appreciate your friendship first and foremost. Appreciate your legal expertise. Be safe over the weekend. Be safe over the 4th holiday. I'll be out next week, so I'll talk to you in a couple weeks' time. Okay.
I look forward to it, buddy.
All right, take care. There's Jay St. Clair joining us for a great couple of segments, diving deep into some of these court cases. In about 15, maybe 20 minutes or so, we'll talk to a local vet about what to do with your pets regarding 4th of July fireworks. And in just a moment, Brenda Willis is going to stop by to talk about blood assurance and the need for blood this summer. That's coming up on The Drive. No Brian Wilson, Matt in for Drive. Brian, it's 4:22 on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Supreme Court rulings and the president's response to them, a manhunt in Tennessee, and we'll also have today's money news. Those stories and more coming up at 4:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mr. Morey. We're at Bull Patriot Brewing Company. We'd love to see you this afternoon. I mean, you're not going anywhere in traffic, as Jay Harper's been telling you. You might as well come here. And then, after a couple of beers, you can Uber home. And they'll have to deal with the traffic, and you can just spend some nice time in their back seat. So there you go. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll spend some time with a veterinarian to talk about what to do about your dogs. It's kind of an annual tradition of mine because I have 3 dogs, and I like my dogs more than I like fireworks. And for some reason, people like to shoot off fireworks virtually in my backyard. So that's in just a moment or two. Right now, Brenda Willis stopped by. Hey, Brenda.
How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Nice to see you.
It's hot out there.
Is it now?
It's hot.
How hot is it?
Very hot.
It's so hot.
It's so hot. It feels like I'm getting out of an oven into a fridge.
Let me see if I can remember one. Let me see. It's so hot, I saw a squirrel pour an antifreeze over his nuts.
Oh, gosh. Is that allowed on the radio?
It's acorns.
Yeah, that's not what everybody's thinking. You know it.
Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. How's blood assurance going?
It's going great.
Yeah?
As a matter of fact, I was just off the phone with one of our account executives, and we are going to have a couple of blood drives going on at the Nashville Sounds next week.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, people should stop by and go see a baseball game and donate some blood to our community.
I'm a perfect example of the type of person that I try to reach when you and I have these types of conversations. Mm-hmm. Because I was needle afraid. I wasn't needle phobic. Because I understand those people exist, that they have like a genuine whatever. But I was needle afraid. Mm-hmm. I just didn't like the idea. But I was a great candidate to give blood, and I did not give blood until my late 20s. And now I try to do it as regularly as possible because, it's not that – in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. My kids were a little afraid. You have to be 16 to be able to donate. And so they were approaching that age, and some were just a little over. And they were like, we don't want to donate. We don't want to donate. And so our CEO came in. He said, listen, would you try it just once? You're going to save somebody's life. Mm-hmm. Try it once. And if you absolutely can't handle it, you faint, you pass out, you whatever, he goes, then don't do it again. He goes, but I think you'll find if you do it one time and you think of yourself as a hero and saving somebody's life, you'll probably come back and do it again.
Well, because the fact of the matter is, we try not to think about these things because they're negative thoughts. But should you, God forbid, get into a car accident, should you, God forbid, have to have some sort of surgery to repair something going on in your body, there's literally one way that you get blood, get blood, and that is for someone to give that blood for you to get. That's it.
Yeah. I had an emergency in my life, and I was birthing a baby and ended up having an emergency C-section and needed two units of blood to save my life. And
the nice thing is, and I don't begrudge anything that the American Red Cross does. God bless them for the work that they do. But there's some that are concerned with the amount of overhead they might have, and there are others that are concerned with the idea that when they take blood, they kind of push it out to various other parts of the community. At Blood Assurance, it's the nice thing about Blood Assurance, it's here.
That's the thing that I like about it.
Yeah.
It's the blood is donated in the community, and it is used in the community where it's donated. So you're helping your neighbors.
Is the summertime a busy time of year for you guys? Is it a shallow time of year? I would think with vacations and people just with so much going on, you kind of giving drops a little bit.
It does. People aren't thinking about it. It's hot. You don't want to be donating, blood when you're dehydrated and all that. So it is. So people have to think about it. We have brick and mortar stores where you can go and donate in the Nashville area. You look those up at bloodassurance.org and go in there, nice air conditioned, have yourself a nice glass of whatever, drink.
They give you a snack.
It's not alcohol.
No, I know. It's apple juice. But you get a snack, you get some cookies.
Yeah.
And some apple juice. And what you do after Brenda and I had to get together. And I was picking on her because I was like, man, oh, man, it's the best time to go out and have a nice beer. So she goes, stop, don't promote that.
Yeah.
Like, well,
no, it's not a good idea to drink alcohol when you're donating blood. But drink a lot of water, drink a lot of juice, drink a lot of other good things, and go out and save somebody's life. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
So you can go on the website and find out where the blood drives are going, find out where the physical locations are and that sort of thing.
Bloodassurance.org.
What else is going on in your world? Are you still going to Ireland?
I go to Ireland a lot.
As much as you can?
As as much as
For
I
those
can.
that don't know, I mean, everybody knows Brenda Willis. Everybody knows the Willis family. Everybody knows. I mean, I told you, I just for the first time, I don't. You're shaking your head already. I'd never seen the
I'm saying,
American.
don't go there, don't
the
go there,
America's
don't go
Got
there.
Talent video, but I went and watched it. And your cute youngest with, I'm
goodness.
free. I'm
Yeah.
free.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's so good.
She just-
You melted Howard Stern's heart.
Well, we
your daughter
melted Mel
did.
B's heart.
It's
She
so
really fell in
good.
love with her.
But I mean, everybody knows all of that, but maybe they don't know that you are kind of the central figure in the Irish Festival. I mean, you do a lot of things surrounding Ireland in the city of Nashville.
You know, my kids started playing Irish music when they were really little, and it encouraged our family to do international travel, which was not something I ever expected to do. And we started going over for the Irish music competitions and the Irish dancing competitions, and it was just this beautiful culture of people that face-to-face human interaction, sit and have a pint, have a talk. They're not all drunk over there. They're not all leprechauns.
Just about half of them.
There's no. Don't do that.
Just kidding.
But I love authentic Irish culture. And my kids have grown up in face-to-face human interaction, enjoying the music and the dancing, and it's really cool.
Well, I've got to do this. Hang out if you can, because we've got to go back to McMorey and get the news and get the bad news on the traffic. And we'll do that right now. It's The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. Back in a moment.
It is 4:33. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 98 degrees in Nashville, and that big old sun is going to stay bright, and the air should stay muggy this holiday weekend. The excessive heat warning in effect today until 8 p.m. tonight. A full weather forecast and the latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The Supreme Court ruled against President Biden's student loan forgiveness program today. They concluded that the president overstepped his authority by moving without Congress. President Biden said today in response that he thinks the court misinterpreted the Constitution. And in a separate decision on a free speech case, the High Court ruled that businesses can refuse services to some customers. And that case involved a Christian website designer who did not want to create websites for same-sex couples. A manhunt today in Tennessee. 2 inmates escaped Cannon County Jail by walking away from the recreation yard. The yard and jail are separate. The inmates left at about 12:45 today. Their names are Corey Wade Foster and Justin Michael Anderson. And now over to the money news on this Friday. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. A banner day for stocks ending on a high note and closing out the first half of the year. The Dow adding 285 points, the Nasdaq up 195, and the S&P adding 54 points. Tech shares soaring. Apple's market cap closing above the $3 trillion mark for the first time in the company's history. Shares passing the 190.73 share price. Google says it will start blocking articles from local news outlets based in Canada appearing in its search results. It comes after Canadian lawmakers passed a bill aimed at requiring Google to pay fees to news outlets. Facebook and Instagram parent company Meta has made similar moves. Sriracha hot sauce still in short supply, leading prices to soar. Chili peppers in Mexico affected by drought and supplies, and that's bringing prices up. A twin pack of the spicy condiment topping $100 on eBay and Amazon.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
All righty then. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson on the drive. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. If you are in traffic, calm down. Everything will be fine. All is well. It will be there when you get there, unless it's ice cream. And then it probably will not be there when you get there because it's 187 degrees outside. So we want to calm you down. We'll try to drive a few liberal listeners crazy. In the meantime, as Brian Wilson likes to say, as we broadcast from Bold Patriot Brewing Company, Brenda Willis is sitting by. She's agreed to be my co-host during our next interview. Thank you, Brenda.
Here we go.
Here we go, because we've got Dr. Katie Carrier with Cornerstone Veterinary Services on the line with us, and it's very important to me that I have this conversation with Dr. Katie regarding 4th of July, because I can't stay. I mean, I'm just me talking. I'm not begrudging you and your family and what you're doing for 4th festivities, but I just get so itchy when I think about home-based fireworks and what it means for the pets, and to try to help us remedy the situation, especially if you have animals of a sensitive nature. We welcome Dr. Katie to the show. Hey, Dr. Katie, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? It's good to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. Whereabouts is Cornerstone Vet?
So we are in Dixon, Tennessee, so just west of Nashville.
Okay. And how big of a practice is it over there? How many vets do you have?
Oh, we have 3 doctors right now. We're kind of a small mixed animal practice, so we do a lot of small animal, a little bit of large animal.
What's the weirdest creature you've seen on your veterinary table, Dr. Katie?
Oh, gosh. Oh, I don't know. We try and limit ourselves mainly to dogs, cats, cows, and horses. But
cows and horses? That's good.
You know, we do. Yeah, we do. We just quite a bit of large animal. See the occasional pet goat, all those kinds of things.
Oh, pet goat, little fainting goat. I like that.
That's right.
I like that. You probably try to keep away from the cold-blooded type, like iguanas.
Oh, I don't. No. I'm not your girl when it comes to cold-blooded animals. I know some people though. I can send you to the right place. But
that's the most important thing, that you're getting us to the right location.
That's right.
I bet you get these questions in your practice this time of year. I bet you've had them before. So let's just talk about fireworks and pets, and obviously dogs particularly, but probably some cats as well. They just some of our four-legged friends have more of an aversion to fireworks than others, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we get all kinds of calls this time of year. Even every yearly exam I've done the last 2 weeks, it's come up about the impending fireworks and what we do about them. But the good news is we have really good options for pets with firework anxiety. We have great medications. If you have a relationship with your vet and you're up to date on all your preventative care, it's pretty easy to get your pet on those medications, especially with the impending boom booms that are coming because pets hate them, dogs and cats alike. You're right.
And I mean, is it more dogs than? I mean, is there a particular breed of dog that's more sensitive than any other, or it just depends?
It very much depends. I mean, I've got 2 dogs at my house. One, you could blow the side of the house off; he wouldn't care. The other one is absolutely petrified. And she gets her little happy pills and her anxiety meds before the 4th, and she's good. But every dog's a little bit different. Genetics can play into it. Past experiences can play into it. Just what they're used to and what they've been around. My dog that doesn't care about fireworks, he's a hunting dog. So, I mean, he's around loud noises all the time. Doesn't faze him.
Dr. Katie, my co-host for the day, Brenda Willis, has a question for you, too.
Hi, Dr. Katie. I have a question. I have an anxious dog, and she needed to be groomed, and she was just way too anxious to get in the car and go to the groomer. So my vet came out, and she did a mobile visit and gave us some trazodone, and we tried it yesterday, and it did nothing. So should we try something beforehand, if our dogs are anxious, whether it's fireworks or grooming or the vet visit or what? How should we handle that?
And honestly, every dog responds to these medications differently. It's just like people, And I always tell people in exam rooms when we're prescribing these medicines, if the dose doesn't work, if you don't feel like it's doing enough, call me, because we may have some room to go up on the dose. We may have additional drugs we could add in to help with, kind of alleviate those anxiety symptoms. But that's the biggest thing, is just having that working relationship with your veterinarian to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, this isn't working. What can we do next?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and if you have not kept up with your regular visits, then any vet that's worth going to is going to say, hey, we need to catch up with that first, and then we can talk about some other things, because obviously you got to keep up with some of those shots and some of those other preventative type things. Is it what medication did you say, Brenda?
Trazodone.
Trazodone. Is that a typical medication that you would prescribe, Dr. Katie?
We use it all the time. We use it all the time for situational anxiety. So we use it. It's one of the only anxiety medicines I have that can be used kind of as needed. It's not something that we have to be on for a long time, that we have to wean off of, etc. So I really like it for grooming, vet visits, fireworks, thunderstorms, all those kinds of things.
It's just kind of a chill out and relax. What is a normal response? Like if someone's never used it before and they're listening, they're saying, man, I'm going to call my vet, I'm going to get in there on Monday, and I'm going to get some of this. What is a typical response that you would expect from a dog, and at what point should you give it to them prior to nightfall?
So, nightfall is the real big question, because half the time around my house, they're shooting off fireworks in the middle of the day. So I say give it in the morning, give it in the afternoon. It can be given up to every 8 to 12 hours as needed for anxiety. Typically, when I start a dog on it, if they're at the right dose, what I tell people is they should be aware of their surroundings. They just shouldn't care. So I don't want an overly sedated dog. I don't want a dog that's laid out flat that you got to rouse to get them up. But, dogs, it truly alleviates the anxiety associated with some of those situations, so that we're not really just sedating them. Now, that's part of the side effect. If you're at a high dose, you may see a little bit of sedation. They're going to lay around a little bit more because we're truly treating the anxiety with that drug.
So it's like Matt Murphy on 3 or 4 beers. I'm aware of what's going on around me.
But you don't care.
I can get up and go to the bathroom on my own, but I really don't care.
Exactly. That's our goal.
Are there any other tips of the trade that you've learned over the years, or is it really just about getting the drug and being willing to use it for your animals, and recognizing that that's a much better alternative than the obvious, the freak outs and the under the beds kind of things?
Sure.
Anything else that comes to mind?
I always say yield to your veterinarian on what drug is the best for your pet, because there's underlying medical conditions that can change all those situations, case by case. But one thing I have learned, and this is, I try and tell people, is nobody wants to think of themselves being as the person who's going to lose their dog on the 4th of July. Dogs get spooked by fireworks, even with medications on board, even if you're taking all the right precautions. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to somebody. And I always tell people, be prepared just in case it's you. So make sure your dog is safe and secure first and foremost. Make sure it doesn't happen. But if it does, make sure they have a collar on with an ID tag that has your current information, your up-to-date address and phone numbers. So make it as easy for us to get your pet back to you as possible. The other thing is, they're not microchipped. Get them a microchip. Call your vet up. If they are microchipped, now's the time to dig out all that paperwork and make sure your information is up to date. We get tons and tons of dogs every year that come in that have microchips, but the information's not been updated in 10 years, and I don't have a way to contact the owner. It makes it a lot more difficult for us to reunite those owners and pets.
Dr. Katie Carrier with Cornerstone Vet out in, and you said Dixon, right, Dr. Katie?
Dixon, yes, sir. Yep.
All right. Well, I mean, and this is not just dogs. We've talked primarily about dogs, but cats too. And I've gotten a couple of folks from our super text line that were talking about their horses. I guess do you get a good bit of that too?
We see some of that. I think dogs, just the proximity with which we live with our dogs, the evidence of their anxiety is a lot more obvious to us. So, when they're sitting on your couch with you, you're going to be a lot more in tune to those subtle signs of anxiety. But yeah, all species can experience this, and we've got options for most every species.
And I would expect that say the word again, say the drug again.
Trazodone.
Trazodone. I'll remember it after the 28th time. Trazodone.
We call it Trazzle Dazzle, if that helps you.
Trazzle Dazzle?
Absolutely.
Oh, little doggy Valium.
There you go.
So typically, if you're, like you say, just to revisit it, if you're up to date with the shots, if you're up to date with your vet, you've got that relationship going on, you could probably still give a call maybe running out of time today, but certainly give a call Monday and go ahead and get that in place so that your pooch can enjoy the 4th of July in a zoned out sort of state.
That's right. They just don't care.
Hey, man, yeah, Kirby just gave the peace sign. Hey, man, it's cool. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. And honestly, that's the most important thing is, understanding that a lot of people don't realize we're bound by a lot of the same rules and regulations that human doctors are. So having that up-to-date exam allows me to be able to prescribe those medications on a case-by-case basis when your pet needs them.
Dr. Katie, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We appreciate you, and I encourage folks out in Dixon Way to give you a visit.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much.
All right, take care. There's Dr. Katie from Cornerstone Vet, Dixon, Tennessee. Go visit her if you're out that way. That's pretty cool. All right, 52 after the hour, quick timeout. Back in a moment. We'll wrap things up with Brenda and make our way to the 5 o'clock hour as we continue on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
5 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 98 degrees now in Music City, and we're going to hover around triple-digit temperatures this whole holiday weekend. Some storms possible later on this evening. They're moving south from Kentucky. The only threat with those storms would be harsh winds. A complete weather forecast and the latest traffic upcoming in 5 minutes. Michelle Franzen lets us know the 2 Supreme Court rulings that came down today.
A defiant President Biden criticizing the Supreme Court's ruling striking down the student debt forgiveness program. Justices ruling that the Biden administration overstepped its authority, moving without Congress to waive or reduce $400 billion in debt. The president says he thinks the court misinterpreted the Constitution and says Republicans, too.
But today's decision has closed one path. Now we're going to pursue another. I'm never going to stop fighting for you. We'll use every tool at our disposal to get you the student debt relief you need and reach your dreams.
The president says his administration is moving in a different direction and will create a temporary year-long on-ramp repayment program for those struggling to pay their debt and interest. Federal student loans were paused during COVID beginning in the Trump administration and are now due to resume in October. In a separate decision on a free speech case, the Supreme Court ruled businesses can refuse services to some customers. That case involved a Christian website designer who did not want to create marriage websites for same-sex couples.
And back here in Tennessee with a ruling today, News 2 says that a panel of 3 judges has temporarily blocked Governor Lee's Teacher Paycheck Protection Act. The bill was supposed to go into effect tomorrow. The legislation was going to raise the minimum salary for teachers to $50,000, and it blocks payroll deductions for union dues for teachers. The Tennessee Education Association called the bill unconstitutional and a, quote, cynical attack. A hearing is now set for July 13th to discuss the temporary restraining order. And the holiday rush is on with the 4th of July just a few days away. Jim Ryan says escaping the crowds will be nearly impossible between now and next Tuesday.
Never before have so many Americans traveled 50 miles or more for Independence Day. Out of the nearly 51 million making the trip, about 8% will fly.
We haven't seen those kind of numbers in nearly 20 years.
The AAA's Don Redmond says travel demand that's been pent up for 3 years is being unleashed.
It's really a significant number of people who are traveling, but particularly flying.
This will be the heaviest road travel day of the holiday, according to data company Inrix, with average drive times 30% above the normal Friday.
And some crime in Tennessee. News 2 says that a man was shot down and hit with a gun this morning south of downtown. Police say the victim was beat up and shot by a group of people, and the victim is at Vanderbilt Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries right now. And over to some breaking news. This is from Channel 4. This just in. Tennessee Titans running back Hassan Haskins has been arrested and charged with aggravated assault strangulation, and that's according to Metro Nashville Police. He was arrested yesterday and released later that day. We'll keep you updated with more information as it is released right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is The Drive. Brian Wilson off today. He is on vacation for today and for the following week, next week. We have a couple of days off for the 4th of July holiday, Independence Day. We're just past halftime on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and for Brian Wilson, normally you hear me from noon until 3. I shift over to the afternoon times, and I appreciate you being with us. I know it's frustrating if you're in your car, and many of you are, and you're listening right now. I know you can feel frustrated. We just want to give you a moment of zen, a moment of calm. Just looked at the map. There's a lot of red on it. Be prepared for slow travels through wherever you're going. It really doesn't matter. It's all slow. And if you're going to the airport, you might be sleeping in your car. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If you are not, I don't know what to tell you. It's 5:09. Hopefully your flight's not until about 9:30 or 10 tonight, and then you'll be just fine. I mean, at least you're not Brenda Willis. She's driving to Chicago.
Yeah.
Brenda Willis joining us today, just kind of sitting in as a little co-host for me.
Yeah, just
Nice.
want to talk about a few things, and before I get in the car and listen to you while I drive to Chicago.
Yikes. You and 8 of your closest friends?
Eight kiddos.
Nice.
Yeah.
From age what to what?
Age, I'd say 12 to probably 25.
Brenda Willis, when you have 12 children, do you sometimes have a hard time remembering all of their names?
Of course. And I'll be the first to admit it. People ask me, how do you keep them all straight? I said, what makes you think I do?
That's true. It's like there must be a celebratory ceremony every time you successfully send them out into the world on their own. Goodbye, fly, little bird, fly.
Yes, we do, and it's a lot of fun, but it's especially fun when they come back home. We have a great time, which is what we're doing in Chicago. We're going up to Chicago. Well, it's not exactly Chicago, a little south of Chicago. See one of the big brothers wrestle in a tournament this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice. So like wrestle, not like professional wrestling.
Oh, my gosh.
Like real wrestling.
I can't believe you even said that.
Look, all I do
It's
is
like a
ask.
curse
I
word.
just ask the questions.
Yeah.
I'm so ignorant
Real
of these
Olympic-style wrestling.
things. Like Greco-Roman wrestling.
Or freestyle or folk style. Probably the college style is what they're going to be wrestling.
What-
I don't know. It could be freestyle.
You're already talking over my head. I don't know the difference between college style.
Is that
and
real
Greco-
hard to do? Talk over your head?
No, not at all. I'm often wrong, but never in doubt.
There you go.
You do a lot of travel. We talked about your relationship with the Irish culture here in the city of Nashville
Mm-hmm.
and what you bring to the city of Nashville. But you travel a lot. You do like golf tours overseas, right?
I do. I like to do custom tours to make people happy. So if you're a golfer, we go play golf. If you like to drink, we go to pubs. If you like to see sights, breathtaking sights, we go do that. If you like music, we do music. If you like history or genealogy, we do all kinds of custom, interesting things on our tours.
And how often do you go? I mean, just depending on getting people together, like-minded people together that want to go on some of these specific adventures?
Yep. Some people don't know what they want. So there's like wide open things like that. Like I have a tour going from my festival, Music City Irish Fest, in April. And it's just a tour of Ireland. And they don't know what they're going to get. But, I mean, the itinerary's out there. But they're going to just explore Ireland for the first time. Some people want to play golf. So I have a golf group going,
Ooh, me.
You?
Yeah, I'll go.
We can make that happen.
Let's do it.
All right. We can
All
make
right.
that happen.
Like let's do it on St. Patrick's Day weekend.
No, we're not doing it on St. Patrick's Day.
What?
Nope.
You act like Ireland's busy that time of year.
No. Actually, I'm busy here celebrating Irish culture in Nashville.
I guess that's true.
You're probably wondering why. Why do we celebrate Irish culture in Nashville? Do you know?
No.
It's because.
I mean, I'm all about celebrating Irish culture everywhere.
Yeah, but we really are Irish here.
See, I can't. I've never been able to figure out. I grew up in Georgia,
Okay.
just outside of Augusta, Georgia, and so you go right down the coast and you get to Savannah,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
has one of the larger Irish celebrations on
Sure
St.
do.
Patrick's Day in America.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Well, it's probably because they have Irish roots. Like, you know the area around the airport that's called Donaldson?
Uh-huh.
Do you know why it's called Donaldson?
Well, it's probably some sort of Irish heritage going on there. Donaldson.
Well, the guy that founded Nashville was a guy named John Donaldson, and he was Scots-Irish. He was from north of Ireland.
I thought it was Mr. Nash.
And James Robertson. You know James Robertson Parkway in Nashville?
Uh-huh.
He was also Scots-Irish. Those two gentlemen settled Nashville, and they were Scots-Irish.
Is that why you coordinate and we celebrate Irish heritage?
I found that out after the fact. I just like the culture. But I found out it's a real
What
thing.
did you? Was there an Irish festival before Brenda Willis started it?
In Nashville?
Yeah.
No.
So it was your baby. It was your.
It is definitely my 13th child.
And it was out in the at the Grand Ole Opry last year, right?
Well, this year, yeah.
I mean,
in March
this year. Pardon me. Yeah. And will it be there again? Was that a success?
It was a great success. We had 5 brand new Irish artists debut on the Opry over that weekend, or St. Patrick's Day weekend. It was a blast.
Like 5 so they'd never been on the Opry.
Never been on the Opry before. They debuted.
Pretty sweet.
My favorite moment was when this amazing fiddle player, Eileen Ivers, was playing with Ricky Skaggs. And
so pretty good guy to play with.
He's going to town, she's going to town, and he looks at the audience and he leans into the mic and he goes, Eileen Van Halen. So funny.
Before you left, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions that were presented on the Super Text line that I missed while we were having our conversation about, because you wear so many different hats. And, one of the hats you wear, obviously, is a tour guide and custom tours to Ireland and other places. And the Blood Assurance hat, I want you to put that back on for a second, because someone was asking about the most needed blood types. All blood is needed.
All blood is needed, but O positive is the most prevalent blood type of everything.
Right.
I'm O positive, and sometimes I'm seeing because we get a feed every day of what's really needed, what's the emergency need right now, and sometimes it is O positive, even though it's the most prevalent type. But O negative, I think there's only 7% of the population that has O negative. So if you know that you have a rare blood type, it's really good.
What are you looking at me for?
Because I think you need to get in there and donate.
Because I just told you that I was O negative. For a long time, I thought I was B negative, and I like to say when we talked about blood, I'd be negative because of what I do on the radio. But actually, I'm O negative, so I need to get in and donate.
You definitely need to get in there and donate.
Everybody does.
How
often can you donate?
Every 56 days.
All right. And you can I just give a couple of pints, or do I have to stick with the one?
1 pint.
I would like to double up.
I don't think that'd be a good idea for you.
Is that not a good play?
That's not a good play. It's actually really good for your body, though, to donate blood, because then your body generates more fresh new blood, and it's really good for your body to donate blood.
Fresh blood for everybody.
It is very good for you.
Bloodassurance.org.
.org
is the website. And you'll set me up for next spring, and I'll tell everybody about it.
I will.
And all you guys can come if you want.
Absolutely.
Y'all bring it. Let's go to Kirby. You want to go to Ireland and play golf? Yeah. All right. Kirby's in.
Yeah. We can do
Kirby's in. Give me your checkbook. I'm going to need some money out of you. Need some upfront deposit money. Well, I appreciate it. I know you've got to go. I know you've got to drive to Chicago. Thanks for sticking out with us and kind of being my co-host for the last hour or so.
Yeah.
We got into trouble on the dog talk. Do you think that's merited? Some guy was telling me that I was spending way too much time talking about dogs, and he actually said the last comment was, you obviously don't have any kids if you give a crap that much about dogs. I don't think that's very nice.
It's not nice, but some people really care about their dogs, and some people don't have children, whether they can or can't. They don't have children, and they have their animals, and they love their animals. And I think it's right to treat your animals well.
Absolutely.
It's worth talking about.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that self-affirming comment. I appreciate that. There's Brenda Willis. We're going to take a quick time out. Paul Winkler's here. We'll talk to Paul just after 5:30. You're here. Come out and see us at Bold Patriot Brewing Company. We'd love to see you. Or jump on the phones or the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. It's The Drive. No Brian Wilson. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson. 517 on Super Talk.
two big rulings coming in today from the Supreme Court. A Tennessee sheriff suing a mayor, and the July 4th holiday rush has begun. That and more coming up at 5:30 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson on The Drive. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. 521. If you are in traffic right now, you're not doing well. And I know we have Jay Harper on top of it. Mac Morey's on top of it as well. But based on what I'm looking at, I think it merits a little bit further review because many of you are stuck in traffic right now and wondering what the heck's going on. If you're on the loop, it is as sluggish as it always is this time of day, but even a little more so due to a lot of the travel traffic that's moving through, particularly on I-65 and 24. If you are nearing the airport, please be aware, and you're coming out of the city, going toward the airport on I-40, please be aware that there is a lot of slowdown right near the airport. It's going to clog the right-hand lane considerably, but a lot of people that don't need to go to the airport are shooting over into the other lanes, and that's clogging those lanes up as well. Coming into the city right at Donaldson Pike, that's 255. I know nobody uses numbers. Pamela Furr, one of the first things she told me is, Matt, nobody uses numbers in this town. Okay, that's fine. Donaldson Pike, which is 255. That is the airport exit. If you're coming into town, that is a deep shade of maroon or crimson red on my map indicating a significant traffic accident. As a matter of fact, the accident happens right at 255, but the red goes all the way back past Nashville Shores. I mean, almost to Old Hickory. Actually, that's a little past Old Hickory. So just suffice it to say that the traffic is a pretty rough go this afternoon, what with the travel traffic going on. And I hope you're doing well in it, and I hope that we make your drive a little bit more comfortable, a little bit better. From the Super Text line, hey, Matt, if I reply to something that you text to me, do you have a way to get back and read it? Or does it get lost in the hundreds of messages that happen between you talking on air and finally getting back to reading it? Well, clearly, 7434, that one did not get lost, and so I did read that one. So if there's anything in particular you need to let me know, by all means, you let me know. A couple of other stories that we've not covered as a matter of the afternoon drive home, let you get caught up on some of these. A federal judge, this judge's ruling has been lost in all of the discussion about the Supreme Court rulings, which, to a certain degree, rightly so. Because these Supreme Court rulings are important. Removing affirmative action as a deciding factor in college admissions. That's an important deal. Saying that you have freedom of speech even when it applies to your place of business, even if it means denying certain groups of people access to the business opportunities that you provide. That's a big deal. But this is a pretty big deal, too. A federal judge earlier this week blocked part of a Tennessee new law banning transgender medical care for minors and blocked it. They blocked it from going into effect tomorrow. This was one of a number of laws set to go into effect July 1st. It is, and I don't want to talk down to many of you who understand the process, but for those of you in Aniana, typically, when laws of this nature are passed, they give a date certain by which the law will go into effect, and that's normally some months in advance so that people can become familiar and aware that the law is in existence and that things will change for folks after a certain date. The date was July 1st, but Judge Eli Richardson issued an order blocking the state from enforcing a ban on what the Tennessean is calling gender-affirming medication, which I would not use such terminology, but I'll go with it for the purposes of telling you what happened. It blocks the state from enforcing these gender medications and these types of gender medical surgeries, such as puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and even more. Under the order, Tennessee can enforce its ban on so under the order, Tennessee can enforce its ban, so let's get it correct now, on gender transition surgeries. So that ban continues to be in place. Richardson found that none of the plaintiffs were planning to pursue surgeries as minors so that no one, it's one of these technical issues, but, if you think about it, you understand it. When somebody brings a case, they have to have standing in a case. and they have to have a reason to be there. And the people that brought this case before this judge and wanted him to stop this ban from going into effect, they were taking hormone therapy or puberty blockers, but none of them had surgeries. So the judge said, well, I'm not being asked about the surgery part of this law. I'm just being asked about the blockers and the hormone therapies. Now, a lot of folks are freaking out when they find out that there was a block on the ban. This injunction is temporary, and I think that once a trial happens in this lawsuit, I think Richardson, I don't know, I wouldn't dare suggest I know how a judge is going to decide in this case, but Richardson did indicate that Tennessee officials have so far, and I'm quoting from the suit now, failed to make a convincing case on the constitutionality of the law, which General Assembly Republicans moved and quickly passed earlier this year. It was HB number 1. This is what we're talking about, the first bill that was passed this year. In his ruling, Richardson said, let's quote him now, that he does, quote, not take lightly the decision, end quote, to block a state from enforcing the law. And back to Richardson, the legislative process, however, is not without constraints. If Tennessee wishes to regulate access to certain medical procedures, it must do so in a manner that does not infringe on the rights conferred by the United States Constitution, which is, of course, supreme to all other laws of the land. With regard to SB 1, also HB 1, Tennessee has likely failed to do just this. He did not go into any specific detail as to why he believes that. But I think we need to explore that a little bit. So this judge is indicating that somehow disallowing individuals under a certain age from having medical procedures, or more specifically, taking medications that would block the normal flow of puberty in these kids and would permanently alter their genetics. I mean, permanently alter their bodies. I am not a scientist, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but if you engage in puberty blockers for a year or two or a number of years, it's difficult for me to comprehend how you can squeeze that toothpaste back into the tube. That's the point, is that when you're dealing with 14-year-olds, this is something that you can't or would have a difficult time coming back from. That's why many, myself included, are suggesting that we need an age certain by which we allow these sorts of procedures. No one, by the way, for you newbies in the audience, no one is arguing that adults can't make their own decisions. If you're grown up and you're at an age of majority, you can make your own decision about what medicines you want to take prescribed by your doctor. You can make your own decisions about what you chop off or what you add on or whatever you're doing from a cosmetic standpoint and any way otherwise medically. The argument being made by conservatives in the General Assembly, and an argument that I agree with, is that because we do not understand the long-term ramifications of these types of procedures, and because it has not been demonstrated that these procedures prevent suicides, there is no study in America that demonstrates that taking puberty blockers is an effective remedy toward a propensity for 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds to engage in suicide. None. There's not been one, and I challenge you to find me one because they don't exist. I've looked. The argument is that because of that, the risks outweigh the reward. And once someone reaches the age of majority, in this case 18, that they're certainly within their rights to do any procedure they want to do because now you are legally an adult. But the judge has blocked aspects of this case and expected to review all of this during the lawsuit that will happen later on this year. So just wanted to update you on that. It's 5:30. It is the Drive. Brian Wilson not here. Matt Murphy in for Brian on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories, and now it's 99 degrees, one tick away from that triple-digit temperature. All of Middle Tennessee in an excessive heat warning until 8 p.m. tonight. Some storms possible here later on this evening. They're headed south from Kentucky. Complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. President Biden today blamed Republicans and a conservative Supreme Court majority for denying millions of Americans his student loan debt relief plan. Andy Field tells us the president says he's working on other ways to make that happen.
President Biden pushing back against critics who say he knew it was likely the Supreme Court would reject his loan forgiveness.
I didn't give bars false hope, but the Republicans snatched away the hope that they were given, and it's real.
The president's now trying a new plan under an older Higher Education Act that will take longer but could cut some loan payments in half, and for low-income workers, down to zero. All could face more court fights.
In a separate decision on a free speech case, the High Court ruled that businesses can refuse services to some customers, and that case involved a Christian website designer who did not want to create websites for same-sex couples. And right now in the volunteer state, Fox 17 says that the sheriff of Benton County, Kenny Christopher, is suing Mayor Mark Ward due to his belief that the department has not received proper funding. The suit states that the sheriff has only been able to keep enough employees to cover around 75% of the area. The mayor's office alleges that the budget for the sheriff's department at the time was $4.2 million, including a pay raise for sheriffs and jail employees. And that holiday rush, the July 4th travel window is open. If you're leaving today for any July 4th plans via the highway, you'll probably want to leave after 6, so in the next 30, 45 minutes, because the whole rest of today, and as it already has been, we've seen on those traffic reports from Jay Harper right here on Super Talk that we've seen traffic backups near the airport and all over different interstates. So make sure you're driving safe as you head to the airport or your destination for this holiday weekend. That is the latest news, traffic and weather coming up. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you heard any portion of that, I was asking Wayne if that was his dog. Wayne's in the house having an adult beverage, enjoying himself. Thank you so much, Wayne. Appreciate that. He posted a little photograph of us just a moment or two ago on social media. We're at Bold Patriot Brewing. Would love to see you. Kick off your 4th of July festivities for the night, for the weekend, or for the week by having an icy cold beverage of your choosing right here at Bold Patriot. We'd love to see you. We're on Charlotte Pike. Several have asked. We're on Charlotte Pike, just in the back of the L&L Market, and we'd love to have you stop by. And it's my understanding we might have a special guest in the 6 o'clock hour, a very special guest coming up in the 6 o'clock hour on site. Why are you shaking your head, McMorry? I don't understand. Why you would shake your head when I announced that a special guest may be showing up in the 6 o'clock hour. Oh, look, I just noticed that my name says Matt Murphy on our little feed here. And Chris Webber, it says under Chris Webber's face, Master Control. And under yours, it says the Newsmeister.
I'm the Newsmeister.
Are you now?
You like that?
You're better than the Heatmeister. Or the Traffic Meister.
I'd be more like the Hot Meister.
Good grief!
Oh Lord! The way remember, I told Chris just to pull back the curtain a little bit before I get Paul in here. I told Chris during the break. I said I didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way this time around. I am fighting not checking out for the 4th of July holiday right now. I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it to the nail. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get us across the 7 o'clock finish line. I promised Brian Wilson that I would do it for him, and I will. And Paul Winkler,
you got this.
You might have all the lifting to do between now and then.
No, okay.
I don't know. How's it going,
no step
Paul?
First step. Good.
What's
man.
up, Bob? Thank you. By the way, thank you. I don't say it enough when I'm out here because I forget.
Yeah, that's
But I
all
want to
right.
proclaim it right now that Paul is part of the reason that we get to do these visits at Bold Patriot Brewing. I love seeing folks.
I just do it to hang out with you.
You're so cool. Although, why do I say that? Because you just told me that you wouldn't sponsor my swag for my pickleball outfit.
I'm actually betting on Dan.
What?
Paul,
Let's go,
been training.
Paul.
You know, he's been training. You haven't. He's been walking.
He's been walking.
He's been walking.
Walking is not training.
That's all you need. And he played racquetball. He's got history.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
All right. I think you're picking the wrong horse.
All right. Well,
I mean,
prerogative.
Truth be told, if you make Dan Mandis a nice little fancy sweatband for him to wear on his head that says Paul Winkler on it,
no, I won't.
He can have it. He can. I can't believe you're picking Mandis over me.
I'm making one for Bell. That was about it.
That's true. He wears those wristbands. He's making a little wristband action, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Paul, obviously, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for allowing us to come out to Bold Patriot, and thank you for just your financial and economic acumen, your expertise, because I kind of lean on you during these times.
It has been an interesting first half of the year that we've just been through.
And you brought up that it's time to give kind of a first half report.
Yeah, I think it is, because what has been happening so far this year, if you go out and do an internet search on the wealthy or high net worth investors and what they're doing right now to protect their wealth, quote unquote, what was the whole first half of the year? Well, we talk about banks. We talk about the banks, the problem in the banking industry, and so on and so forth. And it's saying that they're putting record numbers or record percentages into cash right now. So what I did is look back at the past and look at when wealthy investors have actually put a lot of money in cash and what happened after that.
You got to go slow with me because, as I've told you before, I was publicly educated over in Georgia. So banks are putting a lot of money into cash right now.
So
what does that mean?
No, banks, wealthy investors have been
putting a lot of money in cash. What does that mean? Like gold, silver?
No, cash. I mean, when you talk about cash, you're talking about treasury bills, you're talking about CDs, you're talking about savings accounts, and those types of things. So you're looking at what had the problems in the first half of the year. It was banks.
Okay.
And what are they putting money into? Banks. Which makes and if you look at it, here's the thing I always point out to people, because people like to emulate the rich. And they go, well, what are the rich doing with their money? You see that all the time. What are they doing? There was a book called The Fortune 400, Forbes Fortune 400, and what they did is they tracked the net worth of the wealthiest people in America. And what they found was that the vast majority of them underperformed in the growth of their wealth, as they estimated it, far underperformed what the market did over, it was like 40 years. far underperformed. So I always point out that the wealthy, they're just not very good investors when it really gets down to it. So what I did is I looked at all the times that wealthy people held lots of cash in the past, historically. And what I did is I looked at, and this is what I'm doing on the radio show this weekend, and I'm gonna point this out, that if you look at the next year, what the stock market did after they were holding a lot of money in cash, you would think, well, the market went down because they're smart. They should know this is what's going to happen next. It was just the opposite. You would have 28, 30% returns. Like if you look at last time, it was 2002, they were holding a bunch of cash. Well, next year, the S&P went up 28%. 2018 was another year where they had a lot of cash. Next year, the stock market went up 31%. The next year that they had a lot of cash was 2019. What happened the next year went up 18%. So it shows you that the wealthy stink at timing the market and trying to figure out where it's going to go next.
What, did they get skittish? What are the reasons why they go over to cash?
I think it's ego and it's pride. If you look at the studies of what people like, do they like the one-armed bandit more at the casino, or do they like the one where you push the buttons? What they find in the studies is people like the one where you have the one-armed bandit. You're grabbing the handle because they perceive they have more control than they do. People perceive, because of ego maybe, that they know where the market's going to go next, and what they do is they try to time it and they try to increase returns above markets.
This shift to cash. This would be those individuals predicting in their own minds and by their own actions that they believe the market's going to go down.
Yeah, and
naturally,
and it is our natural
because when the
inclination.
market's going up, the market has better return, obviously, doesn't it?
Well, if you look at last year, the market went down, right?
Right.
And if you look at that, you go, say, well, what are you going to do after the market goes down? You go, well, I think it's going to continue to go down because all you hear is bad news in the media. So what you do is you move a bunch of money to cash, you move a bunch of money into bonds and fixed income and all of those types of things. And then what happens is you're thinking you've got this down. Everything's looking bad. The economy's looking bad. That means the stock market should continue to go down. What people do not get is that you can go into a recession, you can have a bad economy, and the stock market can go up. If you look at the worst economy that we've had in 20 years, when was it? 2009.
Or 09, yeah.
Now, the market, see, that's interesting you remember 2008 because the market went down in 2008 in anticipation that the economy would be bad in 2009 and 2010. And the economy was actually good in 2008. It was bad in 09 and 10, and it went down in anticipation.
Of that.
Yeah.
So I've been told over the years, and we talked about it, we brushed on it when we have these visits, that businesses and big investors, they try to anticipate and prepare for these things prior to the things happening. I mean, is that – you understand what I mean? I mean, is that a byproduct of that, the fact that they were anticipating a downturn in 09, so they prepared for it in 08?
So, yes.
In their own ways?
That is exactly right. So what they're doing is they're saying, well, I think that the economy is going to get bad. I'm not going to pay as much for stocks this year. So in 2008, they pay less for stocks in anticipation that things are going to get bad.
Is this just an example of these wealthy investors not reading the tea leaves correctly, or is there some causal factor as to when they pull all their money over into cash, why that would create a dynamic for the market to go up?
No, I think that what happens is it is just human nature to try to figure out what's going to happen, take control, try to protect yourself from what you think is going to happen. And what we know from history is replete with examples of how investors they just can't do it. There was a study of pension plans. They studied the biggest, the brightest, the best informed investors, 90 pension plans. Every one of them attempted this, trying to time the market, tactical asset allocation is what we called it. Not one, zero, actually increased returns as a result of their efforts. This is something we see all over the place, and this is why 20 years ago when I set up my company, I said, we've got to do something different than what other people are doing.
And it's part of the reason why folks like myself rely on folks like you, because that feels like it becomes almost a crapshoot if you're not doing your homework and really digging in like you do. You know what I mean?
Well, you run into a problem, though, is that the industry, there was a study at Indiana University, USC, they actually looked at investment advisors. You got to be really careful about it because a lot of investment advisors engage in this as well.
And they're probably just as bad as these other folks.
And that's exactly what they found. The first time I ever saw that study was 1995. And there was a study, what they did is they Dalbar study looking at investor returns. They looked at professionals versus amateurs. The professionals only beat the amateurs by like 1%. And it was pitiful bad.
I bet the other guys in your industry love you saying this type of thing.
They hate it. Yeah.
But it's true.
Well, I'll never forget. I was having a garage sale. My wife and I were having a garage sale back when we lived on this little cul-de-sac one time. This guy walks up the driveway, and I was laughing at something at the side of the house. And he goes, "I know that voice. I know that voice. I know that laugh. I know that laugh." And I walked out, and I was like, "Oh, friend or phone?" And the guy goes, "I like you. You speak." He found out who I was, and he goes, "I like you. Speak your mind." And I go, "Yeah. I think that people need to know this stuff is because this industry is so driven by sales. If you think about it, you look at 2022, there were record sales of annuities in 2022. Record sales. They were literally a 23% jump from the year before. When you take money and you put it with an insurance company and an annuity, that's a product. If you put it with them, what you're doing is you're actually putting it with an insurance company, and what are they doing with it? They're investing it.
Right.
They're just a go-between. And literally, you're
So why wouldn't you just jump
Amen.
the annuity?
You're nailing it, yes. And the reason
Because that's got to cost you money.
That's exactly right. You've got to go, but you've got to, it's like you always hear, buy direct, buy direct, buy direct. And what happens is you go, well, why wouldn't you do it? It's because the insurance company can do something that the direct investment can't, and that is called annuitizing it. And what that means in English is I'm 75 years old. I've got a 10-year life expectancy. I got $100,000. I hand it to an insurance company, and they will pay me, forget rate of return. They will pay me $10,000 a year every year for 10 years. They'll give me my money back, and if I live for another 10 years, they pay me $200,000, $10,000 a year for 20 years. If I live for 2 years, they win. They've only paid me $10,000 for 2 years, $20,000. I gave them $100,000. And that is what an insurance company, that's what it was designed for.
Yeah, they're betting that you won't survive the life of
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Now think about this. How many people actually use annuities for their intended purpose, what they were designed for? It is well less than 10% of buyers ever use it for what it was intended for. It is a high commission product that the investment industry uses because they get paid. Banks get paid a ton, brokerage firms, investment advisors.
And you say they sell it. How do they sell it? They sell it because it's
guaranteed.
It's more stable, it's guaranteed, and that sort of thing.
And they say, hey, the insurance company's going to guarantee your investment. And I point out, wait a minute, what are they investing your money in? These are the things. What if those things go bad? Is the insurance company going to even survive that? And the answer is, how can they?
Right.
So it is.
They're banking on the bigness of their insurance company to survive those negatives to get on the other side. But what if they don't? You're hosed.
Well, what if what they invested your money in doesn't do or does what you're fearing that will happen? It crashes. How can they survive?
So you're better off jumping that.
Well, you're better off diversifying a whole lot more than the insurance industry does. And what you're better off doing, in my humble opinion, is making sure that you follow academic research when it comes to investing.
All right, in the last minute that we have, Paul Winkler, student loan debt forgiveness. I know this was your favorite subject when you walked up to the table.
Yeah. So,
this was a process crime on the part of Joe Biden, right? I mean, it was the way that he tried to get it done without even getting into it. But my goodness gracious, are these young people? You talk to these young folks.
I do.
Do they not know what they're getting into?
I was in a classroom teaching because I do a lot of teaching. And I was in a classroom with a lot of students, and one of the other teachers, professor, said something about, hey, you guys, make sure you take advantage of this. And, Paul, not having any sense, made the point and made myself a public enemy number one when I says, this is probably not going to pass muster with the Supreme Court. Yeah, exactly. They did not like me. But I never believed it made any sense. Because you have people that don't go to college, they go to trade school or something like that, and they're not going to get their somebody starts a small business, they put a bunch of money out, they're not going to get their loans forgiven.
No, of course not.
Why would you do that?
No, you're picking winners and losers, and you're doing so for a political purpose. And I don't need, you know what? I don't think I need your sponsorship anymore. I got John on the line.
Is John going to take care of you?
I think John's going to take care of my pickleball sponsorship, Paul.
You and John, bless you, man.
I mean, Paul Winkler sponsors our visits at Bold Patriot Brewing. He does a show on the weekends.
I'm very careful with my money.
He's such a gracious. You invested in me. I do endorsements for you. You pay me to do that,
but I'm very careful.
This is the best advertisement for your financial wisdom that I think we've ever had.
I think we have. we
will not
hit it out of the park, man.
You don't want to invest in a loser. Is that what you're saying? That's exactly what you're saying.
Say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
Tomorrow, 3 to 6, right?
Yeah,
on
man.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Here's Paul Winkler. We'll be back in just a moment. The Drive. No Brian Wilson. Matt in for Brian on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
6:02, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 99 degrees in Music City. The excessive heat warning in effect for another 2 hours. Some rain and thunderstorms could pass through Middle Tennessee tonight. They're coming in south from Kentucky. And we got a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 11 p.m. in Cumberland, Macon, Putnam, Sumner, and Wilson counties. A forecast and the latest traffic report coming up. Michelle Franzen lets us know how the two Supreme Court rulings concluded today.
A defiant President Biden criticizing the Supreme Court's ruling striking down the student debt forgiveness program. Justices ruling that the Biden administration overstepped its authority, moving without Congress to waive or reduce $400 billion in debt. The president says he thinks the court misinterpreted the Constitution and says Republicans, too.
But today's decision has closed one path. Now we're going to pursue another. I'm never going to stop fighting for you. We'll use every tool at our disposal to get you the student debt relief you need and reach your dreams.
The president says his administration is moving in a different direction and will create a temporary year-long on-ramp repayment program for those struggling to pay their debt and interest. Federal student loans were paused during COVID beginning in the Trump administration and are now due to resume in October. In a separate decision on a free speech case, the Supreme Court ruled businesses can refuse services to some customers. That case involved a Christian website designer who did not want to create marriage websites for same-sex couples.
In a ruling here in Tennessee, News 2 says that a 3-judge panel has temporarily blocked Governor Lee's Teacher Paycheck Protection Act. That bill that was passed in May, it was set to take effect tomorrow. It's supposed to raise the minimum salary for teachers to $50,000 and block payroll deductions for union dues for teachers. The Tennessee Education Association called the bill unconstitutional and, quote, a cynical attack. A hearing is now set for July 13th. To discuss the temporary restraining order. And that extreme heat that we're experiencing here in Middle Tennessee is making it tough for teens playing in a baseball tournament in Shelby Park, where Coach Jordan Sheffield is keeping a close eye on things.
Yeah, you can see it in their face, really. With the red face a lot of more red face, a lot of hands on the knees, things like that. So I kind of keep an eye on that and just try and keep them as cool as possible. We got cold towels. I'm actually about to go pick up a fan now to put in the dugout.
And another parent said that the preparation for their kids starts at home before even going outside. In Nashville, a 64-year-old person was found deceased at Nashville International Airport early this morning. According to the Metro Nashville Police Department dispatch log, the death was reported just after 6 a.m. as a dead-on arrival incident. No further details currently available. This is the second reported death at BNA this week after a 30-year-old Kentucky man tragically took his own life on Sunday. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is The Drive, and a good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. 6:09. My name is Matt Murphy, in for Brian Wilson until 7 o'clock tonight. We'll have a good time trying to get you home. If you're not home yet, I hope you're close. A lot of traffic on the roadways as the 4th of July holiday week has officially begun, if you consider the traffic. There is a tremendous amount of activity going on at the airport, and you just want to be aware of that. If you've got flights out of B&A, just understand that there is a lot of traffic going on, and there are a lot of cars on the interstate backed up trying to get to B&A from the city, and it's just a typical holiday week, and we know how that goes in Music City. 615-737-9986. I'm going to lean on you guys on the phones. We've not really gone to a lot of phone calls. We're at Bold Patriot Brewing Company, and several of you have come by. Many of you have come by and said hello, and we just so appreciate that. Appreciate you stopping by and saying, hey, I love getting out. And whether it's on the drive or in my normal spot between noon and 3, I just appreciate you getting out as well and spend a little bit of time with us in person. We've got a number of other stories to tell you about. Obviously, the primary stories of the day involve the United States Supreme Court and the absolute freak out on the part of political leftists in mainstream media that don't know what to do with themselves when they lose. They don't understand how to handle losing. And they have a typical reaction that is almost always overreaction. Without bothering diving into the meat and potatoes of some of these issues, they make determinations about what all of this means for the United States of America and what all of this means for, in the case of several of these religious cases, the LGBTQ community, what all of this means for you or me, what all this means for Black America with regard to affirmative action. And largely these opinions are going to go unnoticed. Unnoticed unless you're the Asian American that was denied acceptance into a college or university because someone was selected instead of you solely on the basis of the color of their skin, which was what the argument was against the University of North Carolina and against Harvard University. Unnoticed by you unless you happen to be a business owner engaged in a type of business activity that involves your artistic expression. Now you will not be forced through government to provide artistic, expressive elements of design in arenas that you're uncomfortable in doing so. I mean, it would be similar to trying to find a case that isn't too far out there, but to take it away from the Christian perspective, I mean, could you force a Muslim baker to bake a cake that involves some sort of pork for some reason or another? Well, obviously the courts believe that religious belief, sincerely held religious belief, still means something, and more importantly, the First Amendment, the Constitution, still means something. And I got one four-legger that agrees with me in this building. Some of the two-leggers do as well. So that a lot of that going on, a lot of discussion. President Biden, has made a number of comments about some of these rulings, saying that it's not a, quote, normal court. Well, you know what, Joe? You're not a normal president. How about that? How about that, Joe? I mean, your presidency is Chuck. Did y'all see him the other day? This was a day or two ago. I know you didn't because it was on MSNBC, and no one really watches that. I don't mind MSNBC. I'm on the record. I mean, MSNBC is what it is. We all know that Fox News leans right in their commentary, particularly in the evenings, and they don't make any they don't make any bones about it. We accept it because they are aware of it and they speak to it. Similarly, MSNBC is left. They present the news from a leftist perspective, and they will tell you that if asked. Now, no one ever asks them because they don't allow anybody with a contrary point of view on their airwaves. The thing that bothers me so much about CNN is CNN chooses to treat us like we're stupid and act like, we're the middle-of-the-road network. We're the ones that really just call it like we see it. We're just doing balls and strikes here, and that's just Bravo Sierra. It's not – I mean, it's not been true for decades, which is why I call them #NeverCNN. I watch CNN so you don't have to. And I watch CNN a lot, and I do hate watching it. But these media pundits, they simply don't know what to do with themselves because of some of these rulings. But anyway, so on MSNBC, Joe Biden – I forget the woman's name. I've not bought. I think Wallace is her last name, and I forget her first name. She's interviewing Nicole. Is it Nicole? That feels right. She's interviewing the President of the United States. Understand that as someone who's been on television sets, if you've never been on a television set, the producers, the handlers on set, they get you set up. They get you mic'd up. They make sure your hair's right. They make sure your makeup's right. They do all of these things for you. And they explicitly tell you, when the interview's done, sit right there, she'll finish up, go to a break, and then you can get up and you can do your thing. Joe Biden has been a part of national politics for 50 years, 50-plus years. Joe Biden has been doing interviews with Meet the Press. He's been doing interviews with, The Nation. He's been doing all of these Sunday morning talk shows, all of these evening. He's been doing these interviews for the better part of his life. If there is any example, and I don't say this with any gladness because it really is sad. I mean, now it is even sadder that he's the President of the United States, whether he knows it or not. It's one thing to have your CPAP marks. Did y'all see that? Did you see that one, Kirby? I don't know if it was the fact that he woke up late or maybe his skin is not bouncing back, which would be an indicator of something more serious wrong from a medical perspective. But the other day he did an interview right before he got on Marine One and had these odd lines on either side of his face, so much so that even the leftist press noticed and was like, okay, what are these odd lines on either side of your face? And the White House had to come out and say, well, the president wears a CPAP machine, and that was his maybe Jill's tightening it in the night. I don't know what might be going on there. But apparently that was his CPAP. And my immediate thought, well, some said, well, that just shows you how late the man gets up. That's one thing. For me, it's more serious. Like, is your blood flow such that your skin is not bouncing back after an hour or 2 hours? That is an indicator. Like, I've always been told that if you press on your skin and your skin just kind of stays where you press, you got a problem of hydration or some sort of thing. But anyway, there was that going on earlier in the week. And then he goes on Wallace's show on MSNBC, and he sits down with her for an interview, and he says a lot of fumbly-bumbly things that not a lot of people understood. And then she says, thank you, Mr. President, and he says, thank you. And then she starts talking, and he gets up and just wanders behind her while she's on camera. I mean, he reminds me more and more, this will date me a little, but the Carol Burnett Show. Remember Tim Conway on the Carol Burnett Show when he was the old man? He was fumble, and he would shuffle over here, and something would happen to him, and he'd go, oh, no, and then he would turn around, and he would shuffle over here, and he would sit down real slow. Remember that guy? That's Joe Biden. That's our President of the United States, the man making command decisions about our interrelations with places like Russia and China and the Ukraine. If he's not compromised as the day is long, he is so out of it that he can't make adequate decisions. But the political polarization is such that nobody's supposed to make mention of this. I'll give you the third and best example of how his dementia is setting hold. Joe Biden admitted earlier in the week, and it did not make a lot of news. The mainstream media is going to diminish it because they don't want to confuse abortion on demand proponents. But after years of advocating abortion on demand, after years of promoting and advocating Roe v. Wade as the law of the land, Biden earlier this week told a crowd that he was not a fan of abortion. That's what he said. He told a crowd that he was, quote, personally not a supporter of abortion. Biden spoke to the crowd in Maryland this past Tuesday and claimed that his relationship to his Catholic faith dictated that he was personally uncomfortable with abortion. Just so you know, I'm a practicing Catholic, and I'm not big on abortion. But guess what? Roe v. Wade got it right. Roe v. Wade allows states to decide what they will regarding abortion on demand, and states have stretched that envelope to the point where in certain states, Virginia comes to mind. You might remember the governor, Governor Ralph, Blackface Ralph, who said, yes, that you could perform an abortion procedure on the baby after the baby had been born and was outside of the mother's womb if it was her desire. That's infanticide. Yet Joe Biden promotes that and at the same time says, well, I'm a practicing Catholic, so I don't really care for abortion. That's item number 3, to wit, he is dementia-addled, and America's the weaker for it. All right, quick timeout, and then a very, very special guest here on location at Bold Patriot Brewing. I'm very excited as can be. People are already asking about his attire. They're already asking me what he's wearing. Somebody asked me what his favorite fruit was. I don't know where these questions are coming from, but a hot Q&A with a very special guest coming up in a moment. On The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you much, Mr. McMorey. We are broadcasting from Bold Patriot Brewing Company. And are there any wait a minute, let me check. If there are any empty glasses in the room, I'm filling them. Any? Oh, conveniently enough, everyone's got a brew. You see I did that? You know how I did that? It's Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson, desperately holding on to the reins of this radio show on the drive as best I can so we don't go off in the ditch and become yet another traffic snafu in the city of Nashville right now. So we'll carry you to 7 o'clock, hand off to Mark Levin at that time, and then we'll call it a weekend. I'll be back on Monday. I'll be live in my normal slot from noon until 3. Brian's out next week. Pamela Furr in for Brian Wilson next week on the drive. Through the magic and power of radio, look who we have right here in the house. I want everyone in this building to give him a very warm, robust, Bold Patriot welcome. It's Mac Murray, everybody. Woo!
Thank you.
Very special guy. I noticed, is your mug filled as well, sir?
With H2O.
Yeah, sure.
But yes, it's filled. Staying hydrated in this heat, man. You got to.
Oh, yeah. How about that heat?
Excessive heat warning.
You know, everybody talks about the heat, but nobody does anything about it. Huh?
You know
you
what?
like my joke earlier?
Which one? This never mind.
It's hot. Which one? It was basically, since 3 o'clock.
that was thank you. You made it for me. You did it for me.
You mean when you came,
when
on,
you
the
came
air,
on the air? No, I heard it, yeah.
I was like, oh, Brian's not here? Check out. Goodbye. This is how I get treated.
You know what I'm excited about, though? The heat's back. That means, you know what else is back, Matt? The heat index. Your favorite thing, the heat index.
I mean, and I just name her. I mean, I used to say it. I used to say I just want to smack them, but it's violent. But I'm not going to smack anybody for real. But I want to. The real feels.
Real feels.
Don't tell me how I feel. Makes me sick. For those who don't know, I have a few pet peeves in my life, just a couple.
Yeah, just a few.
And one of them is the heat index. And it's not that the heat index is a thing and that exists. I understand that the heat index exists.
Yeah, obviously. You can't deny
right.
that.
I can't deny that.
But the relevancy.
The more humid that it is, the hotter that is generally going to feel to the average person. And so it might be 90 degrees, but it's going to feel hotter than 90 degrees. I get that. And I get a mention of that every once in a while if the humidity is going to be really high and it's going to be. But my goodness, they do it for the numbers.
Yeah, no,
they don't. It's not enough that it's 99 degrees. They want to say, but it feels like 187. It's the surface of the sun, Mac. If you go outside, you're going to burn.
If you can get that triple-digit thing going, I mean, you got to milk that.
They love it.
Yes.
You know how many times Nashville, Tennessee hit triple digits last year?
Twice?
None. No, we did not, Kirby. No, we did not. This is the same guy that just told me a major more on that in a second. I don't think we did. I'll fact check myself in real time, Kirby, but I don't think that happened. So the point being is that, plane lands safely and on time is not a headline, as you well know.
Yes.
But that same plane crashes, kills a couple of people. Well, that's going to be on the news for a few days.
Boom.
So, hey, it's 95 degrees again in summertime. It's not a headline.
No one
but
cares.
Real feels 187. Freak people out.
Yeah, of course.
Hate it. Absolutely hate it. I'm trying to find this story. You wanted to talk about this, and I know you've got to go do the news.
Yeah, of course.
I've
got a newscast to do.
I have no idea how you're going to do that, but
magic of radio, man.
I don't know. I don't know. We were talking earlier this week. There was a story that came out, and I'm looking for it now. It was in the Tennessee Star about prognosticators putting the possibilities of a Major League Baseball team in Nashville in the next 5 years or so. And they put Nashville in the lead as the next Major League team in the United States.
Oh, that would be awesome.
In the lead. And their point is that Nashville has been setting itself up for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working toward it for that length of time. They've made certain commitments, and they've got an organization, the Nashville Stars organization, headed up by Dave Stewart, former Oakland A's pitcher, that really are invested. I'm just doing this from memory now, that are really invested in making this a reality, and they got some money behind them. And Kirby our illustrious on-site producer, immediately looked at me and said, never going to. He pointed. I think he pointed.
Oh, I think he interrupted you mid-sentence and said,
right.
That's never going to
I think he did.
happen.
I said, it was along the lines of, and you play Kirby. Let's just do a little reenact.
Yeah, that's good.
And this is Mac. And I said, Mac, Major League Baseball is set to come.
No. See, that's never going
That's
to happen.
exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. Are you kidding? He said it exactly like it. Anyway, we'll discuss it in a moment. Plus, a special on-site Bull Patriot edition of Friday Mac Attack. And I will get Chris Webber and Mac Morey to guess the tourism destinations of choice in the state of Tennessee. Some of these are going to be very easy.
Excited.
And some are going to be a little harder. We'll do that next. First, somehow Mac Morey is going to do the news from Bull Patriot Brewing Company on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson, winding down the drive on this Friday afternoon. Hope your drive's going as best as possible. A lot of traffic activity considering a lot of the travel happening in and around Nashville. Mac Morey is at Bold Patriot Brewing with us. We're at Bold Patriot Brewing. Be here till at least 7 o'clock, maybe a little bit longer. Chris Weber back at home base discussing the possibilities, much to Kirby's chagrin, the possibilities of Major League Baseball coming to the city of Nashville. I'm just going to read you from people that know better than me. If Major League Baseball expands to the consideration is, right, Maury, that they're going to go to 32 teams.
Make two more teams. Which is they should.
It makes sense.
They absolutely should.
Right. Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, has continued to hint that after he's got to get stadium deals finalized for the A's and for the Tampa Bay Rays. And that once that happens, their primary focus will be figuring out which cities will get expansion teams. Right now at gambling.com. What? You see what he's doing over there? He's like giving me he's just giving me the evil eye. Like, how dare I even speak of the subject?
No, it's just that I've been here. I've lived this. I've seen this dog and pony show.
Kirby is such a jaded unicorn right now.
He is.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You've been around the block. You've heard this a time or two, right,
we've
Kirby?
been sold this ball of goods so many times in this city.
So, gambling.com says Nashville has the best odds at plus 150 of landing a team, followed by Charlotte at plus 250, San Antonio plus 350, Salt Lake City, 400, and Orlando at plus 500.
Man, San Antonio seems, no pun intended, like a home run to me. I mean, that would be a great place to put a team. It does make sense.
Why would you
Behind
send another
Nashville,
professional team to Charlotte that's already had two go defunct?
I mean, Charlotte is about our size, right?
No, not even close. Kansas City is our size.
I would say, yeah.
Well, in Kansas City, but Kansas City's such a sports town. It's hard to compare city to city.
It is.
Because some cities just get out. I mean, well, hell, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I mean,
they show up.
They show and they take literal ownership of the team.
Yeah.
They don't have a baseball team, though.
No, and you're right, Kirby, that baseball is a different animal because you're dealing with 81 games a year in the home stadium.
Well, they have the Brewers.
And that's close. I mean, Milwaukee.
It's close.
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
It's close.
Yeah, it's close.
Proximity.
It's close. I'm giving that.
I'll give it that. San Antonio seems like too little of a city to me, and I don't know. I don't know how big San Antonio is, but it seems like it would be too
that's
small
fair.
of a
I
city.
guess I just picture everything's bigger in Texas. They have a super successful NBA franchise.
So your feeling, Curb, is that they've done this time and time again. They dangled the carrot. They find somewhere else to go. We're always the bridesmaid.
Exactly. It's like, hey, Nashville, if you'll do this, and then the bid goes up from other cities, and then when they open the envelope,
They use Nashville.
we get the
Well, maybe so. But the odds makers, the experts in all of this are saying that because, both Major League Baseball and a group called the Nashville Stars have been funding a push in the city. The Nashville group, fronted by former A's pitcher Dave Stewart, and has hired former New York Yankee Don Mattingly, who played in this city, as an advisor. I bet you went to those games back in the day.
I did.
I mean, he was there.
Balboni also played
early
here.
80s, right?
No,
late 70s.
No,
maybe?
70, 78, like 79 maybe. Steve Balboni played here as well.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was when
Greer.
The team was a Yankees, obviously. Yankees
They were,
franchise.
and they went from that to the Reds, and then White Sox.
All right, while we're playing around with the state of Tennessee and tourism and travel and giving people entertainment options and things to do, and Weber, feel free to join in on this.
Okay.
Would you guys care to guess? I have a list of the top 10 destinations in the city, or rather in the state of Tennessee. The top 10 tourism destinations in the state of Tennessee. And I'm willing to who wants to be the first to guess the number one? I think the top
Dollywood.
That's an excellent guess, Kirby.
That's what I would have guessed.
Dollywood is number 2.
Ooh. Okay.
Excellent guess.
Gatlinburg.
Number 2. I'm going to give you Gatlinburg on man, Kirby's smoking. He's got 2 in a row. Number 3 is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which we're going to call Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and all of that. So there's number 2 and number 3. Weber, do you care to venture a guess at what's number 1?
See, that was going to be my guess for number 1, the whole Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg area.
Yeah.
So I would assume Nashville, Broadway.
I'm going. You hit on number 4,
Wow.
which is Ryman Auditorium specifically.
Okay.
And number 10, I'll throw number 10 in on this for interest in time. Number 10 is the Country Music Hall of Fame. So they're getting a little more specific than just Broadway. But other than that, nobody's got number 1 yet.
Lookout Mountain.
Grand Ole Opry.
Lookout Mountain is number 7. Grand Ole Opry does not make the list.
Wow.
Of the top 10
Shocked.
destinations, which is a little bit surprising to me. So we got number 10, Country Music Hall of Fame. Lookout Mountain's number 7.
I mean, I don't know if that's even a tourist at Neyland Stadium.
Neyland Stadium is incorrect. That is not. It is not on my top 10 list.
Yeah, that would.
Memphis.
Yeah, Beale Street.
Ding, ding, ding! We have a winner. The number 1 outside of the. No, it actually beats the White House. It is the only former or current private residence that exceeds visitation above the White House. It is Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee. You ever been to Graceland, Chris Webber?
I have many years ago, and I was very underwhelmed.
It's like your average. I don't even think that you could build a house as small as it is, like in Belmead. I don't think they would allow it. Yeah. It's not a very big place. I mean, it's a nice-sized piece of property.
I haven't been.
Now, what the appeal is, and Weber, tell me if I'm wrong, as you remember, I went about 15 years ago, and it is like stepping back to 1977.
Yeah, it's a time capsule for sure.
It is an absolute time capsule. I mean, Elvis Presley he had his jungle room down in the basement area. He also had his pool room, which is well adorned. And then next to his pool room, he had his television watching room, which had the yellow leather bar. He had his stereo hi-fi there in the corner where his record albums were. And inset into the wall were 3 television sets, McMorrin, because Elvis wanted to be able to watch all the channels at the same time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. ABC,
That's
NBC,
living the high life.
and CBS.
Wow.
What are you talking about? He's the king, baby. Had himself a telephone, a red telephone in the kitchen area, and if he called down, he'd expect peanut butter and nana sandwiches any moment.
Wow.
All right, so just the list.
So what's the recap?
Give me the recap of the list. Number 10, Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. Number 9, Ruby Falls, Chattanooga. Number 8, the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. More serious line, but understandable. Number 7, Lookout Mountain. Number 6, and I've never even heard of this, the Titanic Museum, Pigeon Forge. Anyone?
Wow, that's a tourist trap.
Well, it's there.
Yeah.
God knows why.
It confirmed.
We're landlocked. Anybody notice? Number 5, Centennial Park, which is, that's kind of
the Parthenon.
Yeah, that's probably what they're talking about more than anything, Parthenon. Number 4, Ryman. Number 3, Great Smoky Mountains. Number 2, Dollywood. And number 1, Graceland. So those are
Not
your top
Rock
10.
City.
I've knocked off. As much as I love Dolly Parton, I hesitate to admit this at the end of the show.
Wow.
I've never been to Dollywood.
Wow.
Really?
I'm just, all I can be is honest.
It's a good time.
It's a good park.
I'm not going to lie. It is a good park.
It's a solid amusement park.
It's Opryland on steroids.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it's not insanely expensive. And as long as you go there with the right mindset, okay, this is going to be kind of kitschy and quirky. And then you go, and it's a great time.
It's hokey. I mean,
yes,
sure.
Exactly.
A lot of hills, valleys. I mean, it's Dollywood.
Lots of
probably
great
a lot
places
of hills
to stay too for the weekend. Okay. All right. Well,
no, you're so funny.
Not a moment too soon. It's 6:48. Mac Morey, did you have anything for Friday Mac Attack, by the way?
Well, not in the time that we have.
We've got like 30 seconds.
Well, I guess just a news update, just going back. I mean, Tennessee running back Hassan Haskins was arrested today. He was charged with aggravated assault. So that's going to, I'm sure a suspension will be pending from the NFL there for sure.
What was he arrested for?
Assault.
Aggravated assault.
Oh, that's too
strangulation.
bad.
Yeah, there's
like
a lot
a domestic
of details.
type
yes.
of assault.
His girlfriend, yeah. It does not.
That's so sad.
We don't have time to get into the dirty details, but it does not sound good.
So, fairly lengthy suspension if you had to guess.
I would guess so.
Well, there you go. On that sad note, we're going to say a fare thee well. Have a wonderful weekend. 6:49. Thank you, Brian Wilson, for allowing me to fill in. Thank you, both Patriot Brewing Company. We'll talk to you bright and early at noon on Monday. It is 6:49 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.